Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV Podcast 523. Post Great Lakes Open. And get it in there right away, Johnny. Did we have a new sponsor at the Great Lakes Open, or part of the presenting and title sponsor?
We did, actually. Garrett J. Verberg. And you might be asking, who is Garrett J. Verberg? And many people won't know, but it's actually a candy company in Michigan. So handing out sweets and chocolates and candies, and I don't know what they all hand out, but it is a candy and snacks company that is presenting the Discraft Great Lakes Open. I love it. I love it's an out of or a non-endemic sponsor, as the fancy Pro Tour people like to say, which means it is someone not directly in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, someone already in our sphere of disc golf. So very cool. It was still technically the Discraft Great Lakes Open presented by Garrett J. Verberg. So funny enough, you nor I had really any hands-on experience with it this weekend. How much were you able to consume, and then how did you go about consuming it?
I had 6 candy bars from Jay Garrett. I had 4 licorice stick. No. You asked me how much I consumed. If I were there, I would have consumed it all.
The fact that they make stroopwafels is, which I was just introduced to not too long ago. Okay. And then that was also in some very special beer collab. But stroopwafels are pretty damn good. I'd never had them. I feel like I was coming back from an international flight and was introduced to them. Okay. And they are so good. But anyway, no, I was talking about the golf, Johnny.
Oh,
jeez. I mean, how did you consume the golf?
I consumed the golf online like everybody else, but how much did I consume? Thursday and Friday, I watched a fair amount because I was fortunate enough to be at work. Saturday, I turned it on in the background and kind of watched the most of the men's and women's off and on. Sunday, I watched almost all of the women and very little of the men. Which is funny because, as we're about to talk about, with the FPO, everybody thought there'd be a whole bunch of drama. We got Holland Hanley going into a lead with the final round, coming off of her Worlds performance, and everybody thought the MPO, Gannon Buhr, was just going to run away with it because that dude had like a 3 or 4 stroke lead. Maybe it was even more than that. Maybe it was 5. I don't know. That dude had a lead going into that final round, and everyone's like, he's going to walk it in. It was flip-flop, though, Terry. That's not what happened.
Let's immediately, I'll just want to say it because I don't even think I got around to it on the socials. Congratulations to both of our champions in both divisions. Get that out of the way. We are not having either of them tonight. I'll admittedly say I didn't reach out to either of them. They've both been on the show semi-recently, and I feel like there's only so many times, and that's not to diminish anything from their accomplishments. I mean, Gannon Buhr, it's kind of getting old. Like, the kid's winning left and right. So
there was a time we said the same thing about Paul McBeth.
Yes, exactly. So congrats, of course, to Gannon, and congrats to Holland. So we'll start right there with the spoiler. Holland Hanley wins this, Johnny. Break it down.
Correct. Holland Hanley ends up winning by 3 strokes. She shoots a 7 under par in the final round, tying Haley King's final round score. But ultimately, Holland really had this. After the first round, Holland was not in first place. Holland was actually 3 strokes out of first. Owen Scoggins was in the lead, shooting a 9 under par at 10-15 rated round. Myself thought, cool. This is great. Owen may go back-to-back because Owen won D-Glow last year. Famously took a nice big drink out of the trophy, and I was really excited to see that. But unfortunately, the disc golf gods had a different plan because Owen Scoggins unfortunately wasn't able to keep up that 9 under par pace. Shoots a 4 under. Kat Murch rises to the occasion, shoots a 10-18, 9 under. And Kat Murch is in the lead after the second round. And Kristen Tatar, the first time we've mentioned her, shoots an 8 under and gets herself into second place. And at this point, we have a 1-stroke lead by Kat Murch going into the third round. And unfortunately, Kristen Tatar, I don't want to say the wheels fell off, but she just wasn't getting birdies at the pace of some of the others. And Holland Hanley came out with a smoking hot 10 under par to jump her up 6 places into first place. And at this point, she had a 1-stroke lead over Kristen Tatar, a 2-stroke lead over Kat Murch, and a 3-stroke lead over Haley King. And again, like as I said, everybody went into this thinking, oh my gosh, Holyn Handley, Kristin Tattar. She was like 0-8 against Kristin over the last 2 or 3 years or something like that, maybe over the last year or so. And so a lot of people were just sitting there waiting for Holyn to kind of melt down because of what we saw at Worlds, where it felt like her arm disconnected from her body and she could not control anything. But thankfully, that did not happen. And Holyn Handley shoots a round leading score of 7 under par, tying with Haley King. So she kept the 3-stroke lead over Haley, but Kristin ended up falling off and shooting a 2 under. So Kristin would have had to shoot an 8 or 9 in order to win, which clearly, as we know, is possible out there. We saw it. We saw it with Owen. We saw it with Holyn. It's not an easy score by any means because there's danger right away, but Kristin came out very flat. It's a double bogey to start out, then birdies, and then a double on the 3rd hole. And ultimately, at that point, it was over for Kristin. Like, she could not come back at that point. So we were just all waiting to see if Holyn could hold on, and she did. She didn't take a bogey until hole 17. It really felt like it was over by hole 12. And so Holyn, I don't want to say she walks it in because she kept her foot on the gas the entire time and really kind of put a lot of doubters to bed, I feel like, for these Elite Series events. And I said it chatting with somebody online because there were so many people on that chat board, like, as the round was starting, like, just wait, here it comes. She's going to melt down. And I said, I don't think it's coming. I don't know if she's going to win, but I don't think she has the same nerves at these Elite Series events that she has at the Major.
Yeah.
Like, the Major is a pressure cooker,
yeah.
And it's understandable. She's won a few Elite Series events.
Yeah, and just that. You know, she was in the process of going after what obviously would have been her first world title, and what goes along with that is not what we've seen at some of these other events. So a very fair assessment. And to be fair also to her rating and her consistency overall prove that she's not going to have meltdowns time and time and time again. And she may struggle, as any player can,
well, and
crack under a little bit of pressure. But to have the struggle that she did at Worlds, the final round, where everything seemed to go wrong, like you said, felt like it almost disconnected. To see something of that magnitude, I don't know if we may never see that again, or that might happen one more time in the next 5 years or something like that. It might be officially behind her.
Statistically, and granted, statistics are only as accurate as you want to make them. We can make a lot of stats lie if we really want to, depending on how you look at them. But her final rounds have been notoriously bad.
I get that, but
which is why a lot of people were sitting there like, oh, this is right where the type of thing. But and a lot of people scoffed at me when I said, I don't think it's coming. I truly don't feel like we're going to see those meltdowns from Holyn much anymore on the final round. Just because. And I'll go on record as saying it right now, and this might be a hot take.
Ooh.
Everything being equal, everyone playing their best, I think Holyn Handley is the best disc golfer in the FPO field. I think she's better she throws further than Kristin. She's got a better forehand drive than Kristin. I think she honestly right now has a better putt than Kristin. The only thing that Kristin has on her, well, I don't say the only thing, the two things I feel Kristin Tattar has on her, her approach game. Kristin has just such a good forehand approach game and backhand approach game, although Holyn was flawless. And Kristin has the mental game when it comes to these majors that Holyn still doesn't have. And we'll see at some point, Holyn will get over that hump. But I truly think Holyn Handley may be, everyone was looking at Kristin Tattar as the future of our sport. I honestly right now think it might be Holyn Handley. The way she plays, if she can just if she can get past what's between her ears. She, I feel, is probably the best all-around disc golfer in our division. So,
all right. Mark the tape, folks.
Send the hate mail to, my name is Terry at Pro Disc Golf. No. Just watching her play.
I understand where your talking points are coming from. They make sense.
Just watching her play when she's on. Clearly, again, we saw at Worlds where she can be off and it looks bad. But man, does she look under control, and does she throw far? And just like there were a few approach shots I watch, I'm like, all right, she's probably going to end up, 15, 20 feet out. No, she just pins them from like 300 plus. And at D-Glow, there's a few of those out there for the FPO where you have to throw a drive or two, and then you're still not close. And she just is so good on so many aspects. I have a lot of questions about in general her mentality. Some of her golf decisions can still always be called into question. I don't think Kristen makes a lot of those bad decisions that I think Holland has made. But skill-wise, man, Holland Hanley. And that brings up a question I have for you, Terry, later. I think this is a later question about caddies. So someone on the board remind us later, maybe for the after show, if this is a caddy question. I have a caddy question that I want to talk to Terry about.
Not the same caddy question that wondered if there's conflicts out there by our caddies.
Gosh, no.
That one we can talk about as well later.
I didn't
caddies.
I didn't hear that at all.
Oh, I did.
So let's go down the rest of the field. Now, Holland Hanley, as we said, wins this one over Haley King by 3 strokes. Third place was Kristen Tatar. Fourth place, Owen Scoggins kind of worked her way back up. She kind of maintained in that 4th through 6th position most of the event after that first round, but she ended up moving up a spot. 5th place, Anniken Sten. Anniken had a really good weekend, kind of finished off a little slow on that final round. Had a great throw-in, I believe it was on hole 3. It was I think it was the other downhill. From the right, she threw it in. It was like a 200-plus foot throw-in. It was great. 6th place, Kat Murch. And as we said, Kat Murch had a great round going, and then I don't say a great round. She had a good round going that final round, and then the back 9 just ate her up. Just flat out. I mean, she was like 5 or 6 over par on that back 9, which, she, by all accounts, probably should have been a top 2 to 3 player, and just unfortunately couldn't keep it together there in the back. Missy Gannon in 7th place, a tie for 8th place between Valerie Mondahano and Rebecca Cox, and rounding out your top 10 was Ella Hansen and Holly Finley, which is funny because I don't feel like this is a course really that a lot of people would place Holly Finley as a top 10 competitor. She tends to like more accuracy-based courses, more tight courses, I'll say. This is much more of a long thrower course. While it does require a little bit of accuracy, you have to keep it between the wide fairways that they have. Congratulations to Holly Finley on that. She played very well.
Yeah, and you see that when she shot in that final round a 3 over, that was one of the lesser rounds, we'll say, out of the top 10 players or so. In fact, out of the top 10, it was the ties for the worst round of the top 10. So giving strokes back at the end is what I'm trying to say. Otherwise, having a really good weekend leading into that final round, and still a solid finish. Do not get me wrong. I know she's really proud of it, as she should be. But a 3 over is how she ultimately rounded it out. So, yeah, congrats again, Holland Hanley. One thing just immediately that jumps off the page at me when we're looking at some of the FPO scores is I feel like a narrative that was talked about and pushed as the press conference rolled around, specifically we'll say with Gannon Burr, is the idea of the course and how it plays. And a lot of people talked about it in the press conference as to the way the course grows in and how they only can go out and significantly do maintenance or something of that nature, like every 3 years. And when you look at the FPO's back 9, and I'm only looking at the final scores right now, you see it absolutely littered all over the place with birdies, as opposed to when you go to the back 9 on the men's side, obviously playing, it looks just a little lighter. And it feels like maybe by the final round they had it figured out a little bit more. But some of the other rounds, it was a little more sparse, except for the people that were truly shredding the course. And I know that maybe sound all too obvious, but I don't want to say the rich were getting richer, but clearly you had to be on or playing really well to be getting a lot of those birdies on the back. Even just scroll back, I don't know what you sorted by a moment ago, but
the front 9 is clearly much easier for both divisions, MPO and FPO even.
Correct, but the back 9 doesn't punish the FPO, I think, quite as much. That's just a real quick, glance at the scores. I don't know if there's any real data Statmando, you out there? To back any
Edwin
of that
Stats?
up. Yeah, but that's just at a quick glance.
And we can move over to MPO to talk about this because it is something I thought was kind of funny. In the first round, Isaac Robinson comes out with a 10 under par, literally getting the first 10 holes. And
yeah, that's good.
That is pretty good. Like, I tuned in.
I mean, I would like to start tournaments that way.
I tuned in, which is really bad. I tuned in hole 11. Not going to lie.
Yeah.
I felt bad. I'm like,
on.
wait, I heard Isaac's getting all these birdies, and then he went par.
Bro,
I jinxed him.
Totally
I jinxed
your
him.
fault.
But compare that, in general, Isaac's 10 under first round with Isaac's 5 under second round, where he got almost none of the front. He started out 5 straight pars, but then dominated the back 9. I mean, it's out here to get. It's just a matter of how you feel on that particular course. Because if you were to take Isaac's front from the first round and back from the second round, that dude have been like 15 under par. So it is there are things to be had. But Isaac comes out scorching hot with a 10 under in that first round over Calvin from Innova. Nope, not Heimberg. Lundqvist. And then Calvin from Innova, Heimberg. So it went Isaac, Calvin, then Simon Lizotte in 4th place. Now we move into this round 2 where we saw Isaac unfortunately shoot a 5 under, so that's 5 strokes worse than his first round. But Gannon shot the 10 under, so Gannon now is 1 stroke ahead over Calvin and Isaac. Calvin Lundqvist kind of tumbles down the leaderboard into 7th place. We move into the 3rd round where Gannon Burr then shoots an 11 under par, so he follows up his 10 with an 11, besting it. I believe that was the best round of the weekend. If I looked again, yeah. So he shoots the hot round of the weekend on the 3rd round, moving day as they like to call it, kind of putting himself out of reach is what everyone thought. He had 5 strokes going into the final round over Ricky Wysocki, who shot a 9 under. Ricky, who was clean that second round, jumped himself up 3 spots, tied with Calvin. Isaac Robinson, kind of like I said, only shot a 6 under again, so he's in 4th place, dropping 2 spots. But then we get to the finals, and again, I thought at this point, 5-stroke lead, 4-round event, Gannon's just going to walk this in. There's kind of no question about it. Well, Gannon starts out kind of mediocre and keeps going kind of mediocre.
Yeah, he's only for his 2 down through the first 8 and 3 down through the front 9 overall.
And Isaac starts picking up the pace. Isaac is at 4 down through the front 9 and slowly starting. And
Evan Smith is 5 down and Simon Lizotte 6 down.
Evan Smith was making a run. I think at one point Evan Smith was in 2nd place, maybe only down by a stroke or 2. But it actually got really close. It was much more exciting for that final round than a lot of people thought. Gannon let people back into this. Now, he ends up winning by 2 strokes over Isaac, which is funny because I think Isaac had said something how he took 2nd place last year, the week after Worlds. He takes 2nd place this year, but I think
I don't think he'd mind the trend as long as it preceding that is another Worlds win.
That's right. So next year, if you count on Isaac for a win at Worlds, make sure not to pick him for a win the next week. He kind of lets it go a little bit. He relaxes and only takes a 2nd place. But ultimately, Gannon Burr ends up able to kind of walk this one in. He only gets 2 of the last 6 holes and still wins by 2 strokes over Isaac. Isaac did almost as much as he could, shooting that 9 under, a clean 9 under, which is a 1067 rated round. He would have had to do something kind of special, a little bit special to catch Gannon. Ricky tied for 2nd as well, shooting an 8 under that round. 4th place was Evan Smith, and Evan looked really calm. And I mean, I think he does all the time, to be honest. I didn't see.
You don't see him on tilt a lot.
He doesn't get excited or on tilt much, but he started out really hot that front 9 and made it a fun thing. Simon Lizotte in 5th place, shooting a 6 under that round. 6th place was Luke Taylor, a name that we've been talking a lot about. And Luke's rating, I believe, is somewhere in now 1035, 1037. The kid's just on fire. I think a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, Luke Taylor having a good couple of weeks where you'll probably see him fall back into his normal 1030-ish rating, not necessarily top 10s, but I don't know if that's coming. Honestly, the way Luke has been playing, it just feels like he's here to stay. Calvin Heimberg at 22 under for 7th place. In 8th place, you have Vaino Makala one of the few overseas players that we saw this weekend playing, at least in MPO. We saw, obviously, Simon has the German flag, but he's a U.S. citizen now, so we don't count. Someone changed that flag already.
Right after McBeth changes that he's no longer from Huntington Beach. Right? It'll probably be there forever.
It probably will be. Eagle McMahon, 8th place. Not a bad finish for him. He was never really in contention, but we kind of saw him now and again. Just a solid continuation. Still probably getting over whatever injury he has and getting used to the discs. I know there's at some point that those excuses all have to go away, but ultimately in 8th place is nothing to shake a stick at. And a tie for 10th between Adam Hammis and James Proctor. So that is your top 10 for MPO at the Discraft Great Lakes Open, presented by Garrett J. Verberg. Yummy, yummy. That's actually part of the tournament thing. It says,
yummy. That's the official.
That's the official tagline.
I didn't listen to Ian and Brian. I didn't know if
they
got
weren't
any
allowed
of the
to say it.
Yummy.
They weren't allowed to say it, but they were thinking it.
Okay,
I know that.
Fair enough.
And another not so hot take, I don't feel like, is Deglow one of, I think, that maybe the top 3 courses on tour.
Okay.
There's not excessive OB. They do line some of the fairways with OB, but I don't feel like it's
not a ton of it.
I don't feel like it's excessive. It's more so a lot of it is just so you don't go into the really nasty, deep, gross stuff, like where you're going to get all torn up. The blackberry bushes and, hey, Terry, get my disc, or if Terry, find my disc type positions. But just the course filmed so well. It has its accuracy points. There's a couple wooded shots in there. The elevation that it requires, there's a hole or two I don't love out there, but I think that's kind of every course. Short of, I think, Maple Hill, which might be maybe the best course on tour, there's not a hole at Maple Hill that I don't really that I would look at it and go, meh. I don't think we need that one. There's like one or two.
Wait till you see the new changes for this year.
Oh, great. I still don't love hole 18 at Deglow. It's better now that it's pushed back because it was just such a tweener hole before. Mm-hmm. Now the OB, it is closer to OB. You do need a decent second shot to get up there. Most players are now playing for a 4, to be honest. Very few even go for a 3. It might now even be too hard of a hole because of the OB as tight as it is on that second shot, that a lot of players are just laying up on it. But I really like the Deglow, and I was thinking, like, was Deglow one of the original Pro Tour courses, Terry?
No.
I think it came on year 2 or 3, right? From the Pro Tour?
Well, it wasn't the first year.
No, I know.
And
there was only 6
and
of them.
I don't feel like it came until a couple years later.
I couldn't remember if it was 2 years
year.
later or what. But
it'd probably be pretty easy to look.
I could, but I'm too lazy. I'm not going to look that up. But anyway, it's such a good course in general, and I don't know. We're coming into a lot of the best courses on the tour, which is why we've got next coming up is Green Mountain, and then you've got MVP. And obviously, then you go USDGC and Tour Championship. But like these next 3 events are some of the most highly rated and favorite courses on tour.
Yeah, the question I think that comes to mind is, with having these playoff events that are coming up, of course they're going to be all 4-round events. In fact, every big event from here on out, the rest of the year is going to be 4-round event. If you go backwards, that's the Tour Championship, That's USDGC, that's Maple Hill, and that's the GMC event. So all 4 of those are going to be 4-round events. Plus, this one was a 4-round event. Plus, obviously, we just came off a 5-round event at Worlds.
Dumb question of the week: does that favor Gannon Burr, who's won every Pro Tour Elite Plus event?
I mean, if you're looking at this year's stats, you would think that it does, knowing how he has swept now with the exception of Worlds, he has swept all the 4-round events that have, beside, I guess all the Pro Tour events.
The Pro Tour ones.
Yes, all the Pro Tour events that are 4 rounds, he has captured. The only exceptions of any events that he didn't being the Champions Cup.
He
and then
swept the Elite Plus events is basically what you want is
so,
the nice way to put it.
Yeah, and then I think then, as some were talking this weekend, Big Germ had a lengthy post where he was talking about as he was DNFing, he was dealing with injury and whatnot, and just talking about, I mean, we just had it up a moment ago, a little over 11,000 feet, not on flat ground by any means clearly, and 4 rounds of it. It's so interesting to me to hear the feedback from our players of everything from this is too easy and I hate it and I don't like it to this is too hard and I don't like it. And truly everything you want to read in between.
That's funny because, I mean, I'm sure some pros have said that this course is too easy, but based on the scoring, it doesn't appear that way.
No, I don't think anyone said that this course is too easy.
Just other courses.
Courses in general. I don't like it or it's too easy in the sense, and maybe I sometimes equate too easy with they don't like the shots that have to be thrown or the shot shaping or a lack of shot shaping or a lack of woods or whatever the case might be. Saying they don't care for it. And traditionally that points to a lot of our ball golf instances.
Yeah.
To now going to this course where there was a sense almost of, man, this is going to be grueling. This is a grind.
Yeah.
And clearly there's no one course,
no silver bullet.
Yeah, that you could absolutely appease everyone with. But it is interesting hearing the feedback. And we also saw the exchange with a post from Eric Oakley saying the other day something along the lines of, I miss European golf. Now, you can interpret that however you want, from the players to the style of the golf to the shots that are required to just the scenery and everything in between, to the weather. There's so many ways you can interpret that. But what's interesting is that fine line of when is it too hard? When is it too grueling? When is, we just had this, a world-renowned course designer on the show last week talking about, does the crime fit the punishment and so on, or does the punishment fit the crime? You know what I meant? And all of those types of conversations that take place. And now here we are. We've got woods, tight lines, and hills, and 4 rounds coming out of almost all of our remaining events, with the exception of USDGC. Those lines aren't so tight, and there's not as much elevation.
Just a lot of rope.
Yeah, I don't know. We're winding down on a big old long season, which feels like just yesterday we were at freaking Olympus for the first time.
Well, it's funny because I feel like the first half of the season went really slow. Like it just felt like it was constant. Like, oh my God, when are we going to get to some of the other events and clearly whatever. But from Champions Cup to Worlds felt like it just flew. Like it was gone. So take that for what you will.
Yeah. So anyway, going to be closing out the season. A few things that we can touch on with relative to all of that. Congrats to everybody. I will say it that with Worlds also being on their plate, the entire Team Ledgestone had one heck of a 6 or 8 week run.
Oh my God.
Knowing they did
Champions Cup.
Yeah, that was way earlier, but yes,
still,
I know. I'm just saying, the recently, I'm specifically saying they did Ledgestone for the 4 days and the 2,200, 3,200 people. Mm-hmm. Then a couple of weeks later have Worlds, and then a couple of weeks later have Deglo. That's what I'm saying, and they sign up for that. That's all part of what they knew what they were getting into. I'm just saying these last 6 weeks, there's 10 or 12 guys that were largely the backbone of those last 6 weeks.
Hats
and
off
I don't
to them.
envy that.
No, hats off to them because
say.
you don't hear a lot of complaints about the quality of the courses, the ambiguity of the holes, things like that of these last couple events. They've done such a really good job, and that's one of the reasons why also you can argue back and forth about whether Deglo has enough accuracy shots versus what. It's not a tight course for the most part. There's 1 or 2 holes now that you need to really hit some lines on, but it feels like such a fair course.
And with all that being said, I'm also not blind or entirely deaf or ignorant to
Just
the fact
1 year,
that there's
right?
of course been some criticisms. I'm not saying that there hasn't been, and hopefully they take any and all of those constructively and then grow and thrive and improve. Of course, I think that's every good staff and tournament directors MO is to do just that. So I'm not saying none of that happened. Clearly there always is going to be. It's in my opinion, it's impossible to run truly a flawless event, because if you want to name an event or a person or a course or a scenario, I could probably find something to complain about if you really wanted to, no matter what. And don't challenge me, but I could. I guarantee it. So
I was going to name one of your events. So
I could come up with plenty.
I know.
Speaking of which, I'm working on hopefully still a flex start this weekend at the new course I've done in southeastern Wisconsin. That's the plan. I've submitted some final papers, and I know I teased it out there a few weeks ago, but for whoever wants to show up, probably a flex start on this Sunday.
I'll get my PDJ complaint all filled out beforehand.
Yes. So the second you pull in the parking lot, like, I can just send this.
Just hit send on
Yeah, I
that.
don't know if he's even done this. So with that, a few of the things besides the ratings, which I honestly didn't even look at today. I know ratings came out. As interesting, if not more so, I think, than even the ratings, were some of where we're at with, we'll say, records and or other stats and accomplishments. Of course, one of those that comes immediately to mind, Gannon Burr, already at 125,000. Does that even include this last weekend? Because I feel like he's gone past, right? Does that not include this weekend's money? Either way, passing Kristen and her record set just last year?
Yeah, it was last year.
For earnings in a year. Obviously, we just mentioned 4 huge events to still go. So you're thinking bare minimum it could be anywhere from 20 to 60 grand more.
I was going to say minimum of 30. I think he's going to for sure get another 30 grand coming out of this year, based on the next 5 events, because you include the Tour Championship. So which will have the largest payout probably of all the events.
Yeah, that's what I'm just thinking. Like, if he finishes in the top
3, 4 events.
4 events. Yeah, if he finishes in the top, but not necessarily winning. Let's just somehow he gets no more wins in the remaining 4 events, but he's going to finish in the top 5 or 10. That's why I say minimum, on the low end,
minimum 15, maximum 60.
So. I mean, he could win. He could win 100 more yet, depending on what the Tour Championship.
And he's going to have a 10-stroke lead on everybody. Not everybody, on a majority of the field going into the Pro Tour Championship, because the dude's going to be in first place with the points.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Obviously, second place is going to have 9 strokes and 8 and 7. So he's not going to have 10 strokes over everybody. He'll only have a few over some of them.
So when looking at the PDGA stats page at the moment, it shows that Gannon Burr is out in front with obviously the 125,000 earnings. Here's something that jumped off the page at me as it's currently sorted. If you just go to pdga.com and then go to the player stats, the person in second place behind Gannon, as listed here, without doing any sorting, just doing the natural sort that's there.
This is PDGA points?
PDGA is Andrew Marweed.
Wow. Andrew must be loading up on A tiers. And because Andrew, while he hasn't had a bad season on the Pro Tour, he hasn't really been talked about much at the majors as far as winning. So he must be kind of loading up on some of those A tiers to get some of those extra points.
Yeah, he's got 2 A-tier wins, being the Majestic and then the Main Classic. He's played 2 less events than Gannon. He's at 28 events, but he has 23,540 points, which are just PDGA points earned. I just found that surprising with some of the year that we've seen out of an Aaron Gossage, Ezra Robinson, Anthony Barella. Anthony Barella has 67,000 in earnings, whereas Marweed has 24,000 in earnings. However, Marweed has accumulated. Now, these points almost mean nothing. Let me be clear on that. They're a a stat, a category you could follow
for Player of the Year, as well as qualifying into Worlds for next year.
Yeah, when you're talking about, if you said to Marweed, would you trade your 500 points to Antala for an extra 56 grand? I think he'd say yeah.
Do you think they can do that? Do you think Marweed can sell points?
I was just gonna say I want to become like a
broker?
Like a hotel rewards program
for the PDGA?
And be like, yeah, you can cash this in, and for so many points and for so many dollars, you can cash that in.
No, I think you should be selling those to other PDGA members. Like just like Marweed's like, hey, I could use an extra $5 or $6 grand. All right. Do you need some points, buddy?
I'm gonna resort now by what most would consider, outside of wins, would consider the next significant category. If you sort it by cash, you got Gannon Burr at $125,000,
and then I'm gonna guess Isaac.
Wrong.
Ricky?
Ricky Wysocki at $87,000.
So
Ricky has 8 less events than Gannon played. So there's the $40,000 difference. No. But he's got 8 less events. He's at $87,000 already, which again was setting records just a few years ago, but that's another story. Back when I was a kid, Antala in third with money earned so far at $80,000 and change. Heimberg in fourth at $74,000, and Robinson, with his $30,000 Worlds paycheck, is now in fifth at $69,000.
Okay.
So, as we all know, it's amazing what one event. I mean, Robinson missed cash at a couple of events this year, including Waco and including Music City Open. Those are the only two. But yeah, so anyway, kind of interesting to see. Real quick on the FPO side. Take it for what you will. Whoops. Let me see if I can. These stats is what I mean.
Tatar probably still in the lead for cash.
Oh, I bet you not.
No. She's right. She's not. Evelina in the lead for cash.
Yeah. Points-wise, Owen Scoggins has the most points.
That doesn't shock me.
Cash-wise,
every event other than the European Swing.
Right now, Holland Hanley by a few dollars.
Really? So this event jumped Holland into second place.
Yes, because Holland's at $60,005. Evelina's at $59,749. So what is that? $256.
You could probably knock a few, $1,000 off because she spent it partying this past week.
Oh, minimum of €1,000, just right out the window,
just making it rain.
Right over the boat, right off of the ferry, wherever you want to call it. Yeah. So Evelina in second at $59,000, Scoggins in third at $58,000, and Kristen Tatar at $56,000, with Big Money Missy at $55,000, and then a massive drop off to Cap Merch at $33,000. So you have 5 women that are basically between 55 and 60,
okay,
and then down to 33.
And then a big step.
Huge step. So
okay.
Anyway, take it for what you will. It's this. Let's just put it out there and say this feels like almost absurd money to Johnny and Terry disc golf world of 15 years ago, even, or 20 years ago. Clearly. I mean, when Nico was getting to 50 grand, or Barry or whoever got to 50 grand in a year, those were setting new records. We were losing our minds. And now
that's the first quarter of your season.
Yeah.
First half, maybe.
Or in Isaac's case, that's, 2 or 3 events, or Gannon's case, 2 or 3 events these days. So of the big ones. So pretty crazy. Thought I'd throw that out there. I saw some of those stats roll in today, or part of the updates.
Real quick, we will talk about a couple more stats as far as ratings updates. I did a little search here. Gannon stays at 1053. He does not jump up, doesn't move. Ricky jumped up a point. He's at 1052. Calvin, I believe, stayed where he was at 1047. Let me verify that. No, I'm sorry, he went down. He was at 1048, so he lost a point. And Isaac jumped up a point to 1045 right now. So Isaac gaining a point with that World's win. And Chris Dickerson at 1044, Ezra Robinson at 1043.
And Kristen on the FPO side has dipped, but of course, still the highest rated female in the world at 995.
Yeah, that's not surprising. I mean, we all kind of knew that she wasn't probably going to maintain the 1,000 rating for the rest of her career. She hit it where she needed to. Not saying she can't get back there, but it's always very difficult depending on what you're doing.
Okay. Speaking of random updates, it is a 2-year anniversary for Simon Lizotte. So I wanted to throw that out there. And him and Natalia celebrating 2 years today specifically. So thought I'd say happy anniversary.
Well, that's good. We're going to talk real quick about something that I think is very, I don't say important, but it's big. It's big news.
Nothing we talk about here is important.
No,
Johnny.
God, nothing we talk about.
Well, I mean, until we get Zach Smith from the Paul McBeth Foundation, he'll be joining us in about 20 minutes.
Then
that's important.
It'll be big news. UDisc released, and I don't know if it was released last week and we missed it, which could be, the UDisc Communities, which is their version of a social media network. So you can now sign up. I believe they've released in most states. That's still kind of rolling out a little bit here and there, but it is more or less a social media network just for disc golfers now. If you think about it, you can sign up to follow specific players, and you will be alerted as to when they start a scorecard and when they play and their scores. So you can really, follow your friends, and I think that is a big deal. It's something that a lot of people, including myself, had been asking for many, many years. Now, I'm not going to fault them for taking so long because it's a big project. Those guys are really smart. So, and I think it's just a really cool feature of UDisc that you can now, have a group of people and follow them and just in general know how they're doing when they play a tournament and when they play a practice round. So when they lie to you and say they can't hang out with you, but then you see them start a round on disc golf. Like, dude, you said you couldn't hang out. Now you're at the course.
Oh, yeah, nice bogey on 6, a-hole.
Yeah, you always bogey that one. But yeah, I think that's a big deal, and I think it's really cool and important for UDisc and the sport in general.
I'll be the first to admit I knew of it coming, and also that I saw a quick post of the release, but I did not go out there and play around with it yet. Then again, you and I both know how little we both play, but the fact that it's out and it's available, we see a post made about it here. But yeah, pretty cool. Obviously, I'm excited. Actually, I'll try and dive into it, and then maybe I can have a semi-intelligent conversation of more of the features and what it's all about in the future here.
Yeah, cool. Once I know it might still be in beta, as we said. It's been 7 days since they've really kind of started to roll it out. I've been seeing posts for different states that they've been pushing on. I know Texas just got released yesterday, I think, so that's a big community right there. Obviously, they're probably doing this to check, not only to make sure that there's any bugs, but to kind of get server load, because I'm sure this is a intensive feature that you don't want to just drop all at once, that you can kind of keep an eye on it and be like, oh yeah, Texas, we need 2 new servers or whatever that might be. So yeah, it's just in general pretty awesome.
All right. Well, congrats, and thanks for keep on doing what you're doing.
I think it's really a good start to what could be a very big, like right now it's just, as far as I can tell, it's just following up on courses or rounds and things like that. But if you think about it, it could be soon a community place to hang out. It could be a place where you could arrange to meet with people for rounds. You can maybe meet new disc golfers this way in the future. There is a lot of potential coming. Hopefully, I'm sure UDisc has thought of all of this in the future. So smart guys. Those kids are pretty smart.
Is that why they won't hire you?
Yep. And I've never asked to be hired, but I wouldn't get hired anyway because I don't know their programming language, unless I can just ChatGPT. If I could just use ChatGPT, I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do Python.
Yeah.
Please help me. No, speaking of stats, the PDGA is now allowing you, and I'm going to put that in quotes, to keep your stats, as they're calling it. the throw stats that we see for the Pro Tour, the driving and putting stats, they're going to be available for A tiers from now on. And there's about 70 A tiers left, and you have the option of keeping your stats. Terry and I were looking at this before the show, and we don't think there's a way you can actually view all of your combined stats yet, but I'm assuming that's coming. But as of right now, if you play an A tier with a PDGA, you're going to be able to keep the same stats that the Pro Tour keeps. And so I see this as, again, a starting block for PDGA players that will maybe want to keep a lot of their stats for sanctioned rounds. So you can have your UDisc stats for non-sanctioned rounds, or you can keep your UDisc stats for sanctioned rounds too if you want to keep the score twice. But with the PD, it's really funny because having just played an event with the PDGA stats, I couldn't imagine filling in my PDGA score, which you have to, and then switching over the UDisc app and keeping all the detailed scores. Either way. But what I do see is you have to assume that this is going to roll out probably PDGA wide for events, maybe by next year for C and B tiers as well. So if you're a prolific player of PDGA events, as I know some people are, you're going to have a really good stat keeping system for yourself. And I hope, at some point you'll be able to log into the PDGA site and look at all your stats and just specifics like you kind of can with UDisc. Again, PDGA starting to kind of feature up the PDGA Live app.
And speaking of PDGA A tiers and events, I also saw, this may not be for you, but it might be for a club member or a friend or a group of people or your favorite LOC, local organizing committee, that the 2025 A tier request form is available. And maybe more importantly than it being available, it's due in 10 days.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
I'm sending a reminder because you know what's going to happen.
Well, we're not going to have to hear about that.
Dude, I didn't even hear about that. We were gonna submit it, but I didn't even know there was a deadline. I thought it was next January. No, it's right now. It's listed here. I don't put it in the chat. It's listed as the submission deadline is Friday, September 20th, and we all know what's really exciting about getting those submitted now is them manipulating the schedule to somehow make it work for as many people as possible. And the fact that we can have those A-tier dates that much earlier for 2025. And so that excites me. Some other things that are in bold on here, say pro added cash requirement of $3,000 above 100% net entry fees. That is, they'll continue to have that payout requirement. An amateur payout requirement of 110% of net entry fees with a minimum of a $25 player pack. Those are in bold, so I thought I'd just rattle those off for you. Of course, our majors and our elites are all locked in for next year. Next step becomes those A tiers, and then once A tiers get locked in, that's when then really the floodgates open for B and C tiers and everyone else. But I'm just throwing it out there. I've officially put the link in the chat as of right now as well, so that's there too.
Ed Root asks a question about the PDGA app. He says, can a caddy keep scores for a scorekeeper for the A tiers and similar events to the DGPT? And I'm going to go with I don't know for sure, but I would imagine they could do it for an individual person. I don't know if you could do it for an entire card. And I would assume that it is based on as of right now, it says keep your stats. So if you gave somebody your phone or you signed into your account on their PDGA phone or on their phone or whatever in their PDG app, then maybe they could. But that is something I do not know for certain. I'm sure some of this stuff is all coming in the future as well. But for now, I'm guessing it's just you.
Okay.
Or your account, I will say.
Yeah. But if you are asking if your caddy can keep stats for you while you play, the short answer to that is yes. Just like they can keep score for you, as Johnny just said. Can they do it for the whole card? That I don't know. But yes, a caddy certainly can keep score for you, so to speak, and keep all of your stats for you. It does say right now, though, that it is somewhat limited, and you cannot go back without submitting some kind of a request, you can't go back and edit stuff. So make sure you're entering it correctly right now. I'm guessing later there'll be some editing capabilities or functionality to some degree, but right now.
I could imagine that like there's a time limit that you submit and you go back and look within an hour or 2 or 3 hours, and you're like, maybe by the end of the day, you're like, oh no, I know that was not a circle 2 putt, that was a circle 1 putt. You could go and adjust those stats. Or I change all my circle 1 putts to circle 2 putts, which would be great. Like, holy crap, John.
Yeah,
like,
you're phenomenal.
You're a phenomenal circle 2 putter, but how come you're not getting into circle 1, dummy?
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I would assume a lot of that stuff is coming, and they're gonna have to find nice ways to kind of.
Yeah, because I think about being able to edit some of that stuff, but then have it not directly affect score. Because obviously your score is submitted, you submit a 54, and then you want to go in and you actually need to update a handful of things. And depending what you're updating, that may or may not, try to adjust a score. And therefore, if it's already part of the tournament, I can imagine that's a headache. And I'm glad us dum-dums don't have to worry about it.
We don't.
But I'm sure there is a possibility for some headache there. Ed says, I'm going to caddy for a friend this weekend at an A tier. You will find out. Report back, Ed.
Ed, that's your job. You are now a roving reporter for Smashbox TV.
Yes. So, in all seriousness, any feedback or thoughts that you have, we'll be interested to hear it. To time and date stamp this, it's funny. I thought about it as we opened, but I didn't. Yes, we are seeing a presidential debate is taking place again. Just to time and date stamp that. Take it for what you will. I've got no additional commentary on said debate, but it is going on at this very moment.
We should just be like, we should just live stream us watching the debate. Two people who, well, we're both political, but we're not like heavily into the political community like that.
Just so we can utter out dumb stuff.
The stupidest things. Just the stupidest.
I've heard enough dumb stuff from both sides. I think I could ride that rail.
There's only one side that's dumb.
I could ride that rail pretty good.
Just one, right?
According to some people,
sure.
Yeah,
the other side. It's
side.
Always the other side. Everyone knows that, Terry.
Anyway, that's just, disc golf debates are the best. And Aaron says I'm doing both, as in watching the debate and hanging out here. Anyway, that's a lot of what's going on. Like I said, in just a few minutes, we're going to have Zach join us. Zach going to give us some updates. Sometimes I'll admit, maybe this isn't a big secret. Sometimes we kind of have a pretty good idea of everything that we'll say a guest is going to say and or talk about. I don't with Zach, and that excites me from the fact that we know the McBeth Foundation, the Paul McBeth Foundation, has been doing a ton of stuff. We often see some fundraising opportunities for it. We also see a few updates and a few things of maybe where they've gone. We did have Zoe on last year where she gave us a very in-depth, kind of detailed response about one of the trips that she went on. But by and large, I feel like it's out there to go find it, but we don't often shine enough light on some of these projects. Not just from the McBeth Foundation, of course, but from any of the great organizations that are out there. So, and I know usually it's around this time of year, we check in with Jay and Des over at the Educational Disc Golf Experience because they have fundraising and a lot of good stuff going on.
Well, Jay and Des are on vacation right now. They are in Canada at a film festival
for Jay's brother,
who is creating a movie that was purchased by A24, which is the big. They were originally kind of a horror movie type thing, but they are really the big producers right now of a lot of different movies. And Jay was talking about how he was going there to go see the movie. It has Hugh Grant in it, and it was I believe self-financed for the actual movie, but then purchased by A24. So a huge company purchasing Yeti's brother's movie is really cool.
Certainly. Movie star status. I like it.
You think Jay can get us into a movie? You think you and I, can we get murdered in a movie? That's what I want to know. I want to be murdered in a movie. Because I watched a lot of horror movies growing up. It was kind of a thing.
Yeah, I haven't and don't.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, maybe we can make that work for you at least.
Well, that's cool. I would take that. I do need to talk to Zach, going back to the Paul McBeth Foundation, because every year Skip Ace has done, not every year, but for many of the years, we've done a fundraiser for the Paul McBeth Foundation where we have been able to get Paul's USDGC Players Pack. And as we all know, the USDGC Players Pack is usually filled with some epic goodies. And Paul has very kindly donated his Players Pack to Skip Ace so then we can do a fundraiser for the Paul McBeth Foundation. So I'm hoping we get to do that again this year, because I believe last year Paul didn't play because of his shoulder. So we did not have a Players Pack to hand out. And we've done that with some other players as well. So if you know a player that wants to reach out and maybe donate their Players Pack, we can do a fundraiser. I know we've done it. We had Chris Dickerson's Players Pack one year as well. I think Chris Clemens. We did. We had Jordan Castro as well as Paul McBeth. So it's always a lot of fun because a lot of these guys, they don't, as we know, these men and women don't really care about the Players Packs as much as maybe some of the younger players that have it. They may already have some of the stuff, but what they'll do is they'll donate it, and then, or sometimes if you look hard enough, they're selling it. And we'll donate and we'll raise some money. So that's one of the things I've been meaning to reach out to Zach about, and I haven't had a chance to yet this year. So I don't know if I'll talk to him on the show about it or not.
Sure, I mean, you just called him out.
Just spring it on him, or if I'll reach out to him privately before he gets on, and we can talk about that. So that's skipace.com, and you'll be finding out here first if we can take care of that. I'll probably talk to him off the air because I don't want to put him. Too much on the spot.
You just put him on the spot.
That's the only reason we have him on. So Zach.
Yeah, I think that seems very appropriate. I will quickly just bring up, and I know you have a different caddy situation, but one of the discussions that was brought up the other day was, do you think we're going to see, and if I can do it justice, I would read, I'll see if I can read the exact post that came in, but it basically said, if I'm paraphrasing, do you think we'll see it when players have it in their contracts that they're essentially not allowed to caddy for someone if it's outside of their brand?
So right now, as we're seeing a lot, Zach Melton caddying for Calvin Heimberg.
Good example.
Because they're best buddies, but Zach is a DD player, Calvin is an Innova player. Are we going to see that in the future? Do
you think we'll see that listed in a contract?
Possibly. I could see something along the lines of maybe having them say, like, you cannot wear, maybe you can't, or you either have to or you can't wear your sponsor gear. Which do you think it would be?
Well,
like,
and
if you're caddying, because on one hand you'd think, let's say you're a DD and you have Zach Melton, maybe you want the promotion for him caddying for someone on lead card, but on the other hand, you're thinking, well, Innova, who's getting more spotlight here? I don't know what that could be. It's going to be interesting.
You gnaw on it. We can come back because it looks like we've got our guests just about ready to go. But gnaw on that, and we can come back to it later. But I very much appreciate one person that chimed in was a gentleman from Squatch who basically said, we're good. James Proctor was on the bag for Evelina, for instance. They have different bag manufacturers as sponsors, and they're totally good with it. So I thought it was a good, interesting.
Yeah, that's even more interesting, having someone who's wearing a bag that they're not sponsored by versus discs which you're not throwing. So
lots of different ways to look at it. Again, think about it. We can circle back to that conversation. I don't think we're going to see that distinction. I think we're still too friendly and too small for that to happen. But we've alluded to it. Johnny's already queued him up for a favor, because that's what you do when you get a guest. We're going to bring in now Zach Smith of the Paul McBeth Foundation. Zach, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me tonight. Excited to be here.
Yes. Oftentimes when we're talking foundation, sometimes it's with Paul directly, but then Paul even sometimes defers to other eloquent people like Dustin, who has joined us, and a few others. So good to have you. Let's start there. What exactly is your title and role within the Paul McBeth Foundation?
Yeah, so I am the Director of Operations. I have been around since the beginning. Got to hear all the whisperings from Dustin early on as him and I worked closely previously, of him starting to talk to Paul and then bringing in Nate Heinold and Doug Bierkes. And then, once they finally got all formed up and ready, they said, all right, we need some staff to start making this thing move. And Dustin reached out to me and said, hey, we got to start moving and want to bring you along. And so I've gotten to be a part from the very beginning. Project 1.1 in La Paz. I didn't get to go personally to it, but got to see all the background behind it, and then have been a part of all of the projects that we've gotten to put in since then.
And I can only imagine, my next question will be about how fulfilling that is. But before that even, what was your background? How are you tied to disc golf? How were you tied to Dustin? And, how were you in the right place in the right time with these qualifications?
Yeah, so I left Springfield, Ohio, to go major in sports business because I wanted to work in baseball analytics. Why? I really don't know. But as I started to realize what this position entailed, I was told pretty directly that I'm not a good fit for it because essentially it was a compliment that I had too good of a personality to sit behind a computer and look at numbers all day. And they said, you're not fit for this. So I kind of turned to disc golf during college. I went to Tampa, Florida, and majored in sports business, and really got into disc golf as a lot of people do. And in college, started to play, found out I was okay. I was kind of decent and had a lot of fun, getting in, playing tournaments, starting a club at our college. We got to compete at collegiate nationals, and, comes around my senior year and I have to have a full-time internship, and baseball was kind of not something I was pursuing at that time. So I said, hey, PDGA, you want some free work for a semester? So I got to go to the PDGA and work alongside Big Dog and Mike Downs and all of the people that were there back in 2017. Worked at IDGC for about 3 months for my final internship. And from there, learned about Eagles Wings Disc Golf. And that's kind of where I got connected with Dustin and started to do a little bit of work with them and still actually do some work with Eagles Wings, and got connected with Dustin, though, through that. And it's been really fulfilling, as you mentioned, to be a part of all of this.
That is such an incredible story and path because at some point, hundreds or thousands of kids or young adults may watch this or listen to this, and everyone says there's still a famous line of, how do I work in disc golf? And how do I get a job in disc golf? I really love it. I do or don't know if I'm good enough to be on the tour full time, but I know I want to be in disc golf. And your story right there, as you just explained, is just incredible. Do you have advice? I know you're still kind of fresh in all of this to some degree, but do you have any advice or words of wisdom for that person that may, tomorrow wake up and say, man, I just want disc golf to be my career?
Yeah, definitely. You've got to put your foot in the door. One of the best things that my sports business professors told me in college was, it's who you know that gets you the job and what you know that lets you keep it. And so you have to go out there and start volunteering, start running tournaments, go be a part of Worlds. That I got to be a part of that event staff. Go tell these tournament directors that are running these huge events, hey, I'm free this week. I'll come up there. I'll volunteer and do anything you need me to do for that week. And then as you start to do that, you're going to gain experience. You're going to understand how tournaments work. I remember back in college, I am sweeping water through the sections of Raymond James Stadium, one of the football stadiums down here, just because I wanted my foot in the door. And sometimes, nobody's really going to notice that, but I just can think back to those like small moments of, I put myself out there, I met people, and because of meeting those people and learning and taking what I learned in college has fortunately allowed me to keep those positions.
Well, and with that, you just said it. You may learn what you want to do, but maybe just as importantly, you learn what you don't want to do. You think, oh man, I really want to do this in disc golf, whether it's through volunteering or getting a break somewhere or doing whatever. You go do that for a weekend or a week or back-to-back events, whatever that task is, whatever that job or operation or assignment is. And you're like, oh yeah, that I don't want to be in crowd control. I'll just make up something. I don't want to do crowd control. I'd much rather be, working at a vendor booth, or I'd much rather be in charge of ticket sales or at the gate or wherever. There's a million, again, there's all these different options, but I think it's just as important to learn what you don't want to do as to learn what you do want to do. And it sounds like that's all been part of your journey. So you're at any point within any of this, the realm of sports, did nonprofits, did things of this nature ever pique your interest where you thought, hey, I could see getting involved? Like how did that come about in terms of the exact role you have now?
Yeah, I think for me, I wasn't necessarily looking exactly for nonprofits, but I just wanted to have an impact on communities. And, you can do that through Eagles Wings. We have such a cool touring professional group of community that's going out right now, meeting together every week. And it's been really neat to see them grow with each other. And a lot of them are still on tour because of that community that they still have. Now with the Paul McBeth Foundation, getting to do so much work for individual communities that, have never seen disc golf, have never had an opportunity to play disc golf, and these opportunities that are, I'm excited to share about some of them later. I'll hold it for that. But the opportunities that we're starting to see come from that is just unbelievable. And I think that's something that I've gotten to learn from Paul. He talks a lot about like, it's really about opportunity. Why I started the foundation is so that, I was given this opportunity in Huntington Beach to start playing disc golf. Somebody introduced the game to me. But if that course wasn't there, like we won't have a Paul McBeth these days, And so he wants that opportunity to be able to be shared by, people all over the world.
Yeah, and Zoe's just one of our more recent examples, but we all know that on any given day now, and we've said it about Edge for many years, we're gonna continue to say it about Uplay, we're gonna say it about Ricky Wysocki's foundation, Paul's foundation. We're going to have a world champ come out of one of these opportunities, one of these programs where all of a sudden, someone's either discovered or they were given their first disc. And
look at Cole Redalin,
Gannon Burr, who as well. All of these guys,
because Cole went to one of Zoe's the Intel thing that she had done there.
Yeah, the demo there,
and that's where I think he kind of started to pick it up. So we are starting to see it.
Yeah, it's wild. So let's before we get into some of the new exciting upcoming projects and such. We don't need the full day-by-day recap, but kind of bring everyone up to speed if they're not following along closely with the McBeth Foundation. You mentioned the first one ever being La Paz. I think that's easy for me and for a lot of others to remember the first one. But you guys have been doing a ton since then. Roughly how many projects are you guys in, and what kind of jumps out at you within those projects?
Yes, so we have quite a few projects. I'm pulling up my list here to make sure I can say the right ones. Fortunately, I updated my numbers this week.
Okay.
So we are at 26 different courses, and that is with, actually, let's see here, number of projects. We are wrapping up into just over 20 different projects. So some of the projects have multiple courses, but yes, by the end of this year, we'll have 26 fully installed courses all over the world. We have been on 5 continents now. We'll actually be on 5 continents just this year alone, which is really cool. And yeah, thousands of discs donated, thousands and thousands of people taught disc golf across these. And it's really fun to be able to look at, the U-disc play numbers. This tells some of the story, but not all of it. And we're over 30,000 rounds played and recorded on U-disc at our project sites.
I can't imagine that tells even half the story.
Yeah.
Based on a lot of the remote places these are in, I can't imagine somebody over in Africa is be like, all right, well, here, open up my U-disc, and we've seen that some of those guys are just out there slinging discs and having fun. Like
they go under the radar, or maybe not even logged. So, like you're saying, certainly even more than what's documented.
It's amazing.
Yeah, which is cool, and I know we just got done talking about and really gloating, or not even gloating, just praising UDisc and all the cool things that they're doing. So to have yet another tie, because that's so much of what they work on, is knowing where there's a need and the underserved community. And I know you guys take bids and submissions, but they have all this data to back up what was going on or what wasn't going on beforehand and where things are headed right now. What are your what do you have regular communications with the UDisc team, or how do you guys inform one another?
Yeah, so Steve Hill is actually part of our advisory board. He works with us quite a bit on just some high-level marketing plans, but he is also just a great advocate for us. We had some of their team come out for our New York City project earlier this year, and they just loved being a part of it. They were there just kind of to watch the grand opening happen, and they were so excited. They're like, all right, we're going to plan a UDisc team install sometime with Paul McBeth Foundation. So they want to come and install a course sometime. But it's funny you asked that question. Just this week, we are scouting for what we're going to do in 2025. And I said, hey, Steve, I am interested on kind of what data can you collect for this certain country, where we're looking at. It's a major city, but there's disc golf in the country. But this major city is, pretty much a disc golf desert. So what data, can you guys provide as we talk to our board and get an approval for a course or a project there? And as we share the story of like, why is it important we take disc golf to this new place? Like, how do we show this? And so they provide great data to us. Anytime we need something, they're very willing to help us, break into a new community.
I have to assume, maybe it's an ignorant assumption, or maybe it's all too obvious. Has the New York course that went in relatively recently, is that getting the most amount of rounds now? And I know it's also the freshest, so. But then I also think about all the people that have access to it, and maybe the excitement due to that. Where does that course play kind of rank right now? Is that one of the more popular rounds played?
Yes. So our updated numbers were kind of through the end of July. So we don't have like the last month, but essentially we would say Highland Park is probably our second or third most played course right now, even just this year. Detroit is the most played. It was already kind of established before we started, and we kind of helped push them across the finish line and get their full advanced level course set up, but then also added a 9-hole junior level course because the advanced course was truly a little bit more advanced than what a new beginner player is going to want to play. So we got to add that in there. And then actually Columbia would be our biggest international site. So they are recording the most plays. They had a little bit of a disc golf community, doing the portable basket thing, moving them all over parks, trying to play. And so I saw this year, they actually had either 6 or 8 individuals fly from Columbia to come play Am Worlds. And one of the women actually finishing close to the top 10, if not the top 10. So
Laura.
Really cool to see that there's a few steps ahead than some other places.
Yeah, they're big into Frisbee sports in general. I know Columbia tends to have, I think they're big into ultimate. And, Yeah.
Yeah, Laura, who I'd met, not only did I see her and interview her at Worlds, as she was one of the highest placing Colombian finishers there, but then saw them, so many of those competitors that were at Am Worlds, I got to see them again in Mexico. And just as you said, Alejandra, I believe is her name, she was telling me about on UDisc how she has it all set up and how she's setting up all the different baskets. They're going out and playing league. The next week they may have to move the baskets or move, whatever, but they're making it work to play disc golf. And nothing but praise to everyone around the world that has to literally bring out temporary baskets, set them up for a day just to take them back down, just so you can play a weekly league. And I know that's happening in many countries. I've had that conversation. Early Singapore days, that was happening as well. So so many resources and things that are now becoming more available. Hopefully we can alleviate that task for some of our players. So did I see just a few days ago that do you guys have a rough goal of 4 to 6 projects a year? Am I in the right neighborhood, or what's the sweet spot for you guys?
Yeah, so we've kind of progressed it. The first year we ended up announcing 4 projects. We still have one kind of ongoing project with Chicago, but we started with 3, kind of moved up to 4, and then 5, and now we're kind of looking at a 6th project for this year. So it's kind of just been a slow progression, and we're excited to see what 2025 has in store, because we're hoping, drop a little hint maybe, we're hoping to kind of go into one place and build multiple courses, which we've never done before, and to try to really jumpstart a certain community that is kind of ripe for wanting to be able to play some disc golf.
Are you talking about those underserved, underprivileged people in Finland? Is that where we're?
No. Unfortunately, I don't see a project going to Finland anytime soon.
Yeah, we love them, but they don't need the foundation's help. it would be. I think about what kind of crazy stretch it would have to be to be able to,
Like, it's just like the very like upper as far as
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they've got it all figured out. So let's get to some nuts and bolts. In that I've had the pleasure and the honor of talking to you guys more so over the last couple of weeks. I spoke to Jeff Hungerford a few years ago, who I believe went to, was it Columbia maybe that he went to? Or somewhere. He was involved with one of the installs, and obviously we see some stories and some videos of the various events, but I wanted to throw my hat in the ring of being involved in any capacity, and it sounds like you've worked to assemble a team, and is it fair to share what the latest and greatest is? Can you tell everybody?
Yeah, definitely. So Project 4.1, we announced earlier this year, is going to Montevideo, Uruguay. And I'm sure I'm not saying it in the most proper way, but that is as close as I can get. And we are excited to work in another major capital city. Not only are we going to a major city, but, we'd still consider this a country with no disc golf. So we're going to put the first course in the country there. We've already had a course design trip go. Lay out the course for us, confirm that this location is going to fit for disc golf. They already have disc golf listed on their park signs, and they're very excited for it. We hoped it was going to be a little bit sooner, but fortunately, we have been able to work with the local government to ship baskets from Emporia. So this is a DD-sponsored project, shipping straight from Emporia. They are currently coming into Brazil tomorrow morning and then transporting into Montevideo next week. And the plan is to get these baskets released from customs and install a 18-hole course with long and short tee pads in South America, down there in Uruguay. And really thankful to have Terry's going to be joining us.
Yeah, I am so excited.
Wow, nice.
I've been blessed to visit a number of other countries within disc golf, something I would have never guessed a decade ago. But to be involved with the project, any of the projects that you guys have going on, and this one working within a time frame where I can make myself available just to go do whatever is needed in terms of being part of this. I'm super excited about it, especially after, as I just mentioned selfishly, the trip I just had to Mexico and talking about with so many of our players from down there who have benefited, some coming from La Paz, the very first project. Some of those players were at the tournament I was at in Mexico. And so now to go, that far south into South America, and it's, I'm ecstatic about it. And that was going to be my first question about the country is, I think I've heard it pronounced like 6 different ways, and I still cannot find an official. I guess it depends on your accent a little, but even just the other day I heard I watched a podcast from two people there, and they were saying Uruguay as a way to pronounce it. So Uruguay. Well, Uruguay.
According to the internet,
somebody knows.
It says it sounds like Uruguay.
I can get on board with that, and I want it to be right.
Say, in almost all of our projects, one of the first questions I ask the person that we're working with is, am I pronouncing the name of your country right? And I mean, I really I think it's important. And I typically get a nonchalant, yeah, that's fine. You're not saying it as somebody that lives here, but it's good enough. And so I kind of just roll with it from there.
All right. Well, it's funny because when you mention the country, I feel like no matter how much you do or don't maybe get it right, every person I've said it to gives me a funny look. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm just saying it wrong or no one knows how to pronounce it. But very excited. And then just maybe with a little emphasis on which syllable, but then it's Montevideo is where we're going to be, which is just Monte and video.
And that's the capital.
And that's the capital, and that's where we'll be. What is this? You said long and short tees, but what's this setting like? Is this park property that's developed? Is this, newly recreational targeted area? What's the property that's going to host the course?
Yeah, funny enough, it's named FDR Park, so Franklin Delano Roosevelt Park. So it's called Park A, FDR, and it is a kind of a north to south stretching park that's probably about 150 acres. So parts of it are developed, some of it's not. But it actually, the southern portion of it actually butts right up to the Pacific Ocean. So it's right there on the beach. You can basically walk from the park onto the beach. I was informed just last week. It's not a beach you really want to go to and sit at, but it is a beach. Pretty cool setting. And what's really important to us is like how accessible it is. And, anybody that lives there in Montevideo is going to be able to get there super easily. Public transit, buses, whatever it looks like, very easily accessible there. The airport you can actually see is just north of it. It's really, really close too.
Yeah.
So anybody that's like, going to vacation there is going to be able to play. But more importantly, it's surrounded by people. There are so many people in that area that, have never seen the course, never seen disc golf before, and are going to get this opportunity now.
It's so funny because none of us are alone in the thought of, oh man, I'm going to be in this city or even this country, and I've got like a 6-hour layover. Can I get to a course? Can I notch one off, so to speak? Notch one on the belt and say, hey, I got to this place and I got to play a course. And like you just said, it almost doesn't get any closer to the airport. So for those that may find themselves down there
in a layover in Uruguay,
yeah,
I don't see that as a very big thing, but you never know.
You never know. Maybe you're going to or you're going to land there because you're going over to Argentina as well. Buenos Aires, I think, is right across the bay, and I think that's probably obviously that's a popular destination as well. So you're concerned about local accessibility, but even from a global accessibility, some people may be like, hey honey, I'm gonna leave the airport just for a couple hours and go get this in. I could see some husband probably saying that to a wife out there. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Montevideo, I'm sure you know this capital, not only the capital, but 1.38 million people listed in for the population there. How did this bid and submission come about and then get awarded?
Yeah, so there's really 3 things that we look for with any project. And when these 3 things are met, we are excited to take it on. We want a local community member who we consider a project driver, somebody who really cares about getting disc golf in their community and is willing to kind of see the project through and help sustain it. And sometimes it can be somebody who's fairly new to disc golf and they're just like, hey, I want to provide a new recreational opportunity to my community. That's fine. They don't necessarily have to be tied to disc golf, but there has to be somebody who is willing to work with us and kind of see the project through and help us sustain it. Secondly, is it a place of location that is, unaccessible for people to play disc golf? Obviously, no courses in the country. That's an easy one for this one. And then thirdly is the local landowner. So in this case, it is the local government. Do they give us permission to come in and install this course and allow people to come play for free? And so when those criteria are met, we, are really excited to go see it through. And so I believe this was one of those that just kind of came through the website. We have a projects committee. They start to evaluate how serious is this opportunity? Is there any depth to this application? Do these guys actually have something going for them or not? And if they do, we kind of push them a little bit. This one, it took a while. I think this started probably in the beginning of 2023, where we knew it was a possibility to get there. And they had been looking at one other park that was actually more central to downtown, but they never got the signature on the dotted line, which is sometimes just that hardest part. And so this other park became available. The park staff is very excited for it, and they said, yes, let's do it. Let's sign it over. And then, they said, come on down.
Incredible. And then clearly this is expanded to all those projects that we just said, whether it's 2 or 4 or 6 in a given year. At what point does Paul himself get involved, and what is his involvement? Because obviously we know there's so many weekends in the year of which he's competing and has other obligations, including family. Does he visit every site, or has he, or does he plan to? How does that kind of work out with him?
Yeah, so I think it's been, a good balance so far of keeping, his career and his philanthropy a little bit separate. He's still playing every weekend, like you said. And we try really hard to not put too much pressure on him to get to these places, because it is taxing to go visit all of these places. That being said, he has been to quite a few. Trying to average at least one a year has been kind of what he's been looking at. He was really bummed that this one wasn't going to work out just with the timing of it. And sometimes, we just have to work what's best with the local community. But he, is very excited when we get to bring these opportunities to him. And he is one of, like, I guess the final sign offs, like, yes, go ahead and move forward. Let's see this through. And let's put a course there. So he kind of comes in towards the end when most of the details of, like, we've got all of those criteria that are met. Once that's kind of figured out, then we take it to Paul and the board of directors and get that approval and start moving. But yeah, I know he's very excited for some of our future possibilities that, once again, we don't have that signature on the dotted line yet. And he was planning to take an off-season trip to one of those that, unfortunately, we just haven't gotten to, move forward with yet. But I know once that happens, he will definitely be excited to be there as well. And then he was at New York earlier this year as well. So he was there for the grand opening. Missy Gannon got to come to that as well. So that one was a little bit easier to fit within the tour season, but typically we're trying to plan anything international, during the off season for him.
Yeah, and I guess it's a follow-up to locale. You've said Detroit, New York. I'm pretty sure there's an ongoing kind of project with Chicago. Is there any that I'm missing in the U.S.? Or are there any others?
Those are the three that we've done in major cities. And then we've done 2 indigenous communities, one in South Dakota with Avery Jenkins Design, and then one up in Washington at a local high school. So we kind of say our criteria is major cities, indigenous communities, and underserved countries or developing countries.
I want to follow all of that up in something that you just said that maybe will fly under the radar for some, but I don't want it to. This is a dynamic disc project, as you said. And La Paz, for instance, and I know a lot of Mexico, but La Paz specifically also was a dynamic disc project. Just talk about the philosophy of this. Most people would just assume it's Paul McBeth, therefore it's Discraft. Those two go hand in hand, obviously, with this very significant contract, lengthy long-term contract. But that's not the case when it comes to the foundation. So just expand on that, if you would, please.
Yeah, I think that was one of the desires of that kind of core group of people in the beginning with Dustin, Paul, Nate, and Doug. They wanted this to be bigger than Paul, bigger than any one company. And we know that, this is going to benefit all of our companies. It doesn't need to stay tied to just one organization. And if we kind of all can get on board and support in a small way, we're going to be able to go much further together versus trying to, just be on the backs of just one manufacturer. So it's been great to, meet a lot of people in disc golf, working for different companies, all trying to, be a part of something that is going to be much bigger than any of us can ever imagine.
Is there, I guess along those lines then, is there any preconceived notions and or just wild misjudgments or we'll say rumors or whatever, anything that you hear occasionally or often that's just inaccurate that you'd love to address, when it comes to, like I said, whether it's an assumption or anything of that nature? Is there anything that jumps out at you as like, oh, this narrative's out there, but it's just dead wrong? Is there anything like that?
I would say, for the most part, our organization is received really well, and I'm very thankful to be a part of that. The disc golf community, I think, that mantra of grow the sport, which is not necessarily something we've taken on too much of that title, but that grow the sport mentality is really seen throughout a lot of the disc golf community. And so we have just kind of been really fortunate to see overall a very, very strong support base. There's always the 1% of people, probably less than 1%, like, oh, Paul's just doing this so he can have a tax break. And it's like, really, like, I promise you, there's other ways to avoid taxes than donating your PDGA career winning or your PDGA winnings every year. Like, it is definitely much, much bigger than, Paul trying to get a tax break. That's really the only thing that I've seen that has been, towards the negative light. in regards to most of our history. Now there might be some out there that I don't know if you're thinking of one, but
and just so you guys know, we got a 1-800 number for Zach's Tax Services if you need any other professional advice for how to keep that money laundered. No, I'm kidding. But and that's such a great point. And my answer to that also, for what it's worth, would be, even if somebody did say that, I'd be like, I'm still cool with that. I mean, if if you guys are putting in 20 some courses around the world to underserved communities, and
well
even if
worth
he
it.
does get a tax write-off, and even if it does still work out for him, like, hey, I'm still cool with that. Like, no problem there.
Yeah.
I don't see a what is it? There's
I don't see a drawback with that.
Exactly. Even if that were 100% his ulterior motive, it still sounds like it wins for everyone else. So could be worse. This is maybe tough for you to, and it's not to disparage any of them, but what's like your favorite success story? What's your biggest feel good either experience or moment or story of all these projects? There's got to be one that kind of pulls on your heartstrings or something a little bit, tugs on it a little bit more firmly than another. Is there anything that jumps out at for you, or experience, ever? I really locked him up with that question.
You did. You locked him straight up.
It looks like he may have froze on us just for a sec. Okay, now it looks like he's back. I'm not sure if you heard my question, but basically, is there any one thing, that really like has hit you in all the feels of all your projects?
yeah, that's a tough one for sure. But I guess I'll just go with my gut and say the first one that comes to mind is the project in Uganda. So we did 2 courses there at the end of 2022. So we did a 9-hole course in a small village along the shores of Lake Victoria. And then we did an 18-hole course at a university kind of north of the capital city in Kampala. And we met an individual on that trip who was kind of being planned to be the leader once we leave. This was a cool kind of opportunity where the project driver passed it on after he got everything secured and we got the course installed, and the project driver kind of changed. And so this individual's name is Israel. He has just been amazing. I mean, he has done so much for disc golf in Uganda. It's unbelievable. Just this year, he sent some reports, and we've been able to support from our sustainability efforts for him and a team of people from the college to go into different districts within the country to start teaching disc golf, because one of their requirements to become a national federation is that a certain percentage of the districts in the country are aware of the sport. So they have to go and plan these trips out to teach schools and teach kids. And just this year alone, they have taught over 3,000 kids how to play disc golf on only 3 or 4 trips that they've done.
Wow.
And then to follow that up, they had a PDGA sanctioned event in July that not only was the largest tournament in Africa's history for disc golf, but I could probably be proven wrong here, but I believe outside of a junior worlds is probably the largest junior tournament in history. They had 150 junior players in Uganda play one PDGA sanctioned event. And it's just like,
oh my gosh,
what more can you ask for a project driver? And so when we talk about like these opportunities that this organization creates, like I'm thankful to be in an opportunity where, this is becoming a full-time job for me. It's providing for, my family, but what's it look like down the road when could we have a Ugandan staff member who is working with the McBeth Foundation that's building courses? He's already come to me multiple times of like, all right, we've got, multiple properties that want to purchase baskets because he knows how to build baskets now. We've also helped him do that. And so he is, starting to really get into a sustainability where the McBeth Foundation is just going to be afar and watching and helping him. I could envision, and this is a stretch, I understand, but I can envision a world where Uganda will be making baskets and making discs and have a legitimate economy of disc golf in it one day. That's how I would say strongly I feel about Israel, his work ethic, and the people that he's been able to work alongside with.
That is awesome, and really, just to bring it again to recently in Mexico, there's an organization of a couple of guys doing a lot of things, but then also a disc golf company starting up who's making discs in Mexico, which is all goes right back to La Paz being that seed that was planted, and now seeing how it's continuing to grow and blossom and flourish. And that first course or early course now to 11 in Mexico, and fast forward 2 years from now, and there's going to be double or triple or quadruple that in Mexico. So I very much see some parallels probably happening then when the right people are driving it. So all of that all of this development happens because clearly there's, we just mentioned supporters at a manufacturing level. Then there's some volunteers, which we'll have to talk about. But and then there's Paul himself with his tax shelter check writing. Where does funding? How does all of this magic truly happen? Like, where does it start?
Yeah, almost all of our funds, with the only exception being very little amount of retail sales, comes from just donations. So, we run quite a few different fundraising events throughout the year. And we're coming off World's Week, where we saw one of our best weeks of fundraising that we've had as an organization. I know a lot of people got to participate. We had over 900 people donate towards the charity basket raffle to try to take home a World's basket. So this was just a really cool opportunity. And we were blown away by the response of how many people actually were willing to put some, $10-20 towards a chance to win some baskets at Worlds. And, that's just like a one-off event. But our biggest kind of lifeblood of our organization is our Builders Club. So these are monthly givers that donate anywhere from $5 to $200 a month to the organization. They get a pretty cool luggage tag that's specific to the Builders Club. And my hopes is that like Builders Clubs members around the world will play each other when they see each other in person. But it really comes down to people believing in what we can do as an organization and the impact that it's going to have on communities, and to get them to, take action and, either sign up for the Builders Club, participate in a raffle or an auction, or host a tournament event and, donate some of the proceeds, or as simple as just put a donation option on your registration when you set up a tournament. Things as simple as that go a really long way when you have a lot of people doing it.
Running a fundraiser on Skip Ace for
yes,
USDGC.
Yes, finally we're at the big ask.
No. I told him I'd email him after.
No, and I'll echo that. I'm a firm believer in what we've been talking about, in the sense that for tournaments I've been running over the last few years, I've been kind of rotating, not to try and spread the love, where I've donated, we've donated, like whether it's an unhit ace pool or a half of an ace pool, something like that, donated to the McBeth Foundation. I know I've done that once or twice, and then I may rotate that in with a Uplay or an Edge or Ricky or wherever. I love to rotate those around, and I think it's great if anyone's specific to one organization. I just love the idea of kind of spreading the love among all of them. So that is something that people can do, is work with you guys at an event. What are how would you explain those steps to somebody if they wanted to do it and directly tie fundraising to their event?
Yeah, so through our website, we have a tournament partnership form. The best way is to go on there, get connected with Shane, who heads up this program, and he's going to give you a few different options, as simple as, put it on your registration, and hey, if $30 comes in from, the people that play in your event, great. If you want to go as far as running a full-on like fundraiser event, and you want us to try to help you plan it out and get you, maybe player packs. We have that coming in 2025, where you can, go in, purchase player packs for your event, all, Paul McBeth Foundation stamped stuff. We're going to go as far and have that full kind of fundraiser event, set up and ready to go for you.
Yeah, and I know another event that we were talking about 8 years earlier over at the Chain Hawk Open. I know that they've been very active in some significant fundraising, and it's not just that one event. They do a couple of different events down there in Gainesville to benefit the foundation, and that's just one more that I think of that I see time and time again. Similarly, I think back to Worlds and the baskets, and I know we kind of gave some props earlier, but the Ledgestone crew, I feel like you're tied closely with them, and some significant fundraising coming from back at Ledgestone as well. And then even D-Glow just had a fundraiser. How did you guys work that?
Yeah, so Nate, being the president of our board, can come to us, at any hour with a fundraising idea that our team is normally able to take on and figure it out and make it work. And so he, Bob called him from Discraft and said, "Hey, we're replacing the baskets at D-Glow. We've got these old ones. Like, what are we going to do with them? Do you think the foundation would, raffle them off? We saw the baskets at Worlds went so well, and we were a little hesitant because we're like, man, we just did this like really strong thing. We don't want to put out another really big ask to people." And so we kind of laid it a little bit low and still saw a lot of success, through Discraft and through Ledgestone's platforms, really, boosting it. And this one was tied to St. Jude as well. So we didn't take all of the proceeds. It was split between us and St. Jude, 50-50. So they were able to use those towards that Ledgestone donation for their St. Jude program.
Yeah, and I'll follow this all up. St. Jude and all the fundraising overall. Some people have asked about the Play with the Pros that's been happening at Ledgestone. That's something I'm going to be able to get released as we start seeing the season winding down. That's when I can fill in some of those gaps with releases such as that. So somebody asked recently, and I just wanted to throw it out there. That's in the queue, along with some other good releases coming up.
And if I can touch on one more thing real quick,
please
too.
do.
I think
please do.
This might go back to the assumptions. Not that I haven't heard it, but I think one thing that people might have a misconception about a lot of times with nonprofits is, they're bringing in X amount of money. Like, why do they need that much money? And, I would like to share, like, for the Paul McBeth Foundation, we're doing all of this without a single full-time staff member. Not a single person on our staff is even a full-time worker. None of us have benefits and retirement, healthcare. We are all doing this, one, because we really believe in it, but two, because we see a path that, this is an opportunity for us to have a full-time job in the future. Our organization is not big enough to support multiple full-time staff members at this point, but we are getting close. And the goal is that this organization is going to sustain much longer than we're around. 100 years from now, we would love to know that the Paul McBeth Foundation is still existing. And, people can be a part of making that process get there even sooner by being able to support us and, help the staff members, be able to do the work that we want to be able to do. Because without people actually behind the computer screens talking to these people in other countries and figuring out all the details, projects would never get done. And so I think that could be a misconception sometimes of like, wow, the Paul McBeth Foundation is raising all this money. Like, what? Why do they need that? And really, that's our dream is long-term sustainability, so that this can continue happening until everybody in the world has access to disc golf.
Yeah, such a great clarification. And honestly, I didn't even know that there weren't any full-time.
I
assumed like yourself and maybe there were a couple others, which is really a compliment to how much you're getting accomplished without being considered even a full-time staff member. You're probably working full-time hours, just not on a full-time compensation. That leads to then participating and we'll say boots on the ground in terms of installs, help, whatever. What is that process? If somebody's sitting at home saying, man, I would love to, go to such and such country and be part of design or install or teaching or whatever. What are those steps?
Yeah, that one is a tough one right now, and one that I would not say we have completely figured out. Mm-hmm. I would say, we desire for opportunities in the future to where people can register and sign up and go be a part of these trips. And maybe they are more based on education, like they're the second trip there instead of after the install, or once the install happens, then come back, teach disc golf, host a tournament, run clinics, and do more. But to this point, it's kind of been more, I would say, kind of inner circle, we have like dedicated course designers that have put in a lot of volunteer hours and time and shown a lot of investment into our organization that we kind of start with, and we kind of work out into bigger circles if they're unavailable to do something. So right now it's mostly kind of networking and connections to be able to, be a part of these trips, but we want to change that. We are just trying to navigate those challenges when, it's fantastic. You put out a social media application to work with somebody and you've got 100+ applicants. If we put out an application for a trip, we could have 500 applicants. And it's like, how do you go through and choose 10 people out of those 500 people? And what's that look like? And what are their roles? So there's just still a lot of development that has to happen there before we can really put that out to the public.
Okay. And exciting to hear that people are so anxious to be involved in any capacity. And as you were just saying, you think about the interest level could be everyone from, hey, I'd be excited to go there with hand me a shovel and we'll go do whatever you need, all the way to then doing the teaching, to then running an event, to, administering other things. Like there are so many needs, probably diverse needs across the board. And then I think about just the really smart people that speak the language you're going to, wherever it's going to be. I do not fit any of those categories. I know that much. But, I know the likes of a Joey Tamale and some of those others that are just incredibly fluent in a number of languages, and how resourceful and what an asset they are to the project, I'm sure, as well. So in some capacity, maybe more some than others. But, yeah, it's wild.
I would say one additional thought too, we are starting to roll out club partnerships where we partner a local disc golf club here in the United States. It's kind of established and maybe more well known to a project. So you mentioned the Chain Hawks earlier. So they are actually partnered with the Uganda project. And that could also be a way where if you can encourage your disc golf club president to partner with us to start this kind of a relationship between a project driver and your club, then your club can raise funds, and you as a club can go and run a tournament and meet these people and be a part of it that way as well.
Wow. So for lack of a better term, almost having like a sister city, maybe that, you could be directly impacting and knowing that your, where exactly your funds are going. Not that they have to worry about it, but they're going to a very specific place and or resource. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that was a possibility. So is there anything that I'm not thinking of in terms of how the organization currently works, or anything that the rest of the world should know about?
Well, I just want to be clear. You can just make a donation as well. You don't need to be part of the Birdie Club. You don't need to be part of
the Founders or Builders
Birdie.
Club.
You can go to the Paul McBeth Foundation page and just make a one-time donation.
Yeah, don't give it to Johnny and tell him to do it. Go to the website yourself.
I've literally done it myself, so I know it's possible. It doesn't have to be a recurring, but obviously that's always nice. But you can just go and say, I have 50 extra bucks this week. I'm not going to go out to dinner. Yep. Here it is for the Paul McBeth Foundation.
Yeah. Yes. No, I appreciate it. And no, I don't think I have anything else. I appreciate all the good questions you guys had and having me on tonight. And just really appreciate the support of not only Smashbox, but, the whole disc golf community. Once again, we obviously can't do this without the support of the disc golf community, and just thankful that it has been so well received over these last couple of years. And once again, we want to bring disc golf to literally everyone in the world. And if you can be a part of that with us, we invite you to it.
Awesome. Zach, we appreciate you joining. We appreciate you giving more insight as to how, kind of the inner workings and the operations there. Are you going to Uruguay?
I am. Yes.
Okay.
We will spend some time together.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Zach. But oh, sorry.
Not funny. Not funny. Looking forward to it. I've seen a list of the potential others that will be volunteering their time as well and being part of it, and just such a great group. And I'm excited to have any part of it, and hopefully I can continue to spread the goodwill and the love out there as well, and share it with the world as to everything that's going on while we're down there. And yeah, I'm just super excited for the opportunity. So I appreciate you guys as well for considering the idea of me joining you guys.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks again, guys. Have a great night.
All right.
Thanks
Take
a
care,
lot,
Zach.
Zach.
Have a good night. See ya.
Seems like a nice guy, you know?
Yeah. What's he want to do with us?
I don't know why it has anything to do with us.
We didn't even touch on it, but another project that they had done, that the McBeth Foundation had done, was in Guatemala.
Yes.
And with the way the map works, I know the Earth is flat, but even if so, the map shows that I might be able to kind of lay over in Guatemala for a couple days and maybe even check out the course and/or an event on my way back.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah,
so
the timing.
fly to Uruguay on the way back, swing by Guatemala.
Well, Guatemala is a popular hub.
Yeah.
I guess city in terms of the flights.
It's in Central
the plane
America.
things.
It's about halfway between Uruguay and Wisconsin.
And so, there's a good chance. I'm looking into the details of it, but there's a really good chance I may get 2 countries in during this visit, and it may even work out better budget wise to actually have a stop with the way the timing and the flights work out.
Well, look at you saving money too.
Baller on a budget. What can we say?
One of them.
Anyway, again, thanks to Zach. I know often one of our first connections to the foundation, as we referenced, has been Dustin, and I know Dustin continues to be heavily Dustin Leatherman, thank you. Heavily involved and spearheading a lot of things, and then Zach stepping in and also being one of the main go-tos and contacts. I saw Shane when I was in Estonia. Had a great conversation with him as he's living abroad. Everyone I've ever dealt with, except for that Paul fella, they're all great. He's all right too, I guess. But seriously, looking forward to it. Clearly, you guys will hear plenty more. I have the chance to get another country visited, and it's tied to disc golf, so my excitement level is through the roof, and I'm excited to be there. That is in about 6 weeks. Yeah, give or take a few days. That's about 6 weeks out, so looking forward to it.
And I only clarified Dustin Leatherman because Dustin Keegan is very big over on Uplay.
Yep.
So
and also, fair enough.
Very, very tight. I mean, and so some people that may not have been around for a while, maybe not even know Dustin Leatherman.
Yes.
And Hannah.
No, fair. And I was going to say, I thought you were also maybe even referencing Dustin Moray, who's been involved from a media side.
Sure.
And does some media within disc golf. So, no, it ain't those guys.
It ain't either of those other Dustins.
Or Dustin Skorpinski, one of our favorites. One of our favorite local guys.
One of our favorite local guys.
All right, with that, big thanks again to Zach and the entire organization, and to Paul for the vision from day one. Just super exciting to see all
amazing.
Of this.
I had no idea how big it was going to get when he first announced it. I was thinking, great, he's starting a foundation. You know, he's going to donate some stuff. We'll get a course, maybe 2 put in every year if we're lucky, whatever. But to see the way they're ramping up every year, they're adding another course or another project to their agenda, and they're up to 6 right now, and maybe 7 next year, the next couple of years, whatever. Or maybe it stays at 6 for a while. Yeah, even if it stays at 6, you are still putting in
a course every other month.
A course every other month in an underserved community.
Yeah,
just amazing to me.
It really is. So again, tip of the cap to all of them. All right, let's close that out on a high note. It's been a great show. Great to hear such insightful information and details from Zach. And with that, we could close it out. Then we're going to an after show. We're going to have, of course, a Patreon giveaway. A couple more Patreon discs were just shipped out today. So thank you to some of our supporters, especially if you have one.
I'm glad your child labor is working hard.
This one was done by me. This one I managed.
Because when I was over at your house, the girls were telling me about how they did get Panera out of it, but that you had like a whole lineup of kids, assembly line putting these things together.
You had to put all those discs together and
put them in boxes and ship
stickers
them out
and boxes and bags and get them protected.
I don't fault you. I'm just saying.
You're not assembling it. So you better be thankful my kids are.
Hey,
better them than you.
All right.
Right? All right. With that being said, again, thank you to Zach. Congrats to our winners from the big event this weekend. Congrats to everyone. Hopefully Michigan got the show that they wanted and then some out there at the toboggan. Or maybe you sat on the top of the hill and just waited for scores to roll in. Either way, hopefully you were treated to a good time. But Holland Hanley, your champion, along with Gannon Burr on the MPO side. So congrats to them. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. Big thanks again to Zach from the Paul McBeth Foundation. We're going to take a very quick break. And when we come back, we'll have the after show. We'll see you then. You step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV Podcast 523's After Show.
Would you say you're a better or worse commentator than Tom Brady?
I only saw a headline today that stated, and I think it was somebody really reputable talking about him, that stated his syntax was bad or something of that nature. Something about his syntax, and then something about a few either pauses or something was awkward.
Sure.
And that's I didn't even know he was commentating.
He got a huge...
I know nothing more.
I want to say it's like a $300 million deal or something with Fox. I think it's Fox Sports.
Okay.
To do commentating for NFL games, obviously. And I actually watched the game, and I kind of paid attention a little bit. There were times where he would talk and then trail off a little bit. There were some very awkward pauses that you don't just expect in a professional environment. It was his first time as well. It was his first game. I don't know if he did any preseason. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know what type of training he went through, all that stuff. It wasn't the greatest showing. I feel like when Romo came out, Romo was better. When he first came out of the gate, you can give or take Romo now. There's a lot of people that really dislike him, as we know, commentators, whatever. But it was pretty universally that Tom Brady didn't blow the doors off in his first game. So
yeah, just a quick Google search tells me mixed reviews for Tom Brady's first NFL broadcast with Fox Sports. I guess there was a quote. He said so much in the second quarter, quote, "I'm still a rookie in here," end quote. So, I didn't watch a single minute. I didn't even see any clips, which is kind of surprising. I should have went out.
Well, they don't. Well, yeah, I suppose.
I'm just saying clips. Somebody by now has taken these moments and put them into
I'm sure that
has, condensed them into post-production for us. Or something of that nature. I'm sure there's out there. So I would be curious just to see it.
Yanni Melee says he signed more for this contract than he made for his entire NFL career.
I just saw $350 million.
$350 million. $350 million is for the next 10 years, I believe.
Damn.
To commentate on football. To do one game a week. Not that it's just one day a week. I know those commentators do a lot of research. They go to a lot of pre-meetings. They meet with players and talk with them. They've got a lot of other work. It's a full-time gig. It is. So it's not like they just show up the day of and have everything fed into their ear. So
Yeah. Will he still get massages every day?
I don't think that was him, but it was the Patriots owner.
His personal trainer guy.
Oh, probably. He might be still sleeping in a weird tank of some sort. I don't know.
Man, I'd like roughly $35 million a year to
Pro Tour.
to F off.
Where the hell are you?
Yeah. Show me the money. Can I start saying that?
No.
I mean, it's football.
No.
Show me the money.
I don't think.
No.
No, sorry.
All right.
You'll never get that.
You think?
Never.
I don't know.
Never.
Don't never say never.
Never.
That's Justin Bieber. That's a quote.
Never. By the day you die, if you live to be 110, there will not be a commentator in our sport making $1 million a year, much less $10 million for commentating.
Is there any chance?
Probably not.
In the next, I'm 40 something. Well, let's give me 50 more years. Let's say I get to 96. In the next 50 years, could I just make $35 million in total?
No.
That's less than $1 million a year.
You're not going to make $1 million in total in the next 50 years from doing disc golf commentary.
Damn it. I quit.
No, you don't.
No. I'll get fired then. Severance pay? Severance? How's that good? Is that...
Now, maybe if somehow you get fired and then sue.
Yeah, for I got to get fired for just the right
Yeah, you
reason.
have to get fired for the right reason.
And then sue.
Yeah, that's the only way you're pulling in those millions.
Damn it. All right.
So, my caddy question.
All right.
I had a discussion with a friend of ours about caddies in general.
Mm-hmm.
And the few caddies that we have that are significant others.
Okay.
Or support people, whatever that may be. Usually, I'm thinking more caddy position.
Like actual, I'll draw a hard line in the sand here, which is I think, oxymoron of sorts. But Brittany Dickerson dedicated their
support person
every round, not physically carrying the bag. Is she included in this caddy? She's of course the support person.
I'm going to say
I agree
no
with,
because of the question I'm about to throw out there. Is it a good idea? Do you feel like it's a good idea? Or do you feel like it's advantageous? Or do you think it's there's a disadvantage to having a significant other as your actual caddy? Because I don't know how much Chris Dickerson is talking to Brittany and asking her, like, hey, do you think I should throw the buzz or the...
Yeah, do you think...
Or should I go like a fairway here? Like, I think she's more there for relaxing and talking to and keeping Chris calm and just...
She's not talking disc
she's not
selection
talking
and
disc
strategy
selection,
specifically.
as opposed to some of the other players we see.
Jamie Valadiaz and Macy Valadiaz.
Exactly.
Like he... Yep. Maybe talking specific discs.
More strategy.
Tom and Missy talking potential,
Holland.
very much talking specific discs. Okay.
Basically comes down to, do you think it's a good idea? Do you think that they're maybe at a disadvantage?
Because they're not getting that additional insight. They're just getting other support. Is that the question?
Kind of, but do you think that you, as a caddy, I think your job is to be, and obviously it's different with every caddy, but in general, as a caddy, you want someone that will maybe talk to you about the shot, that maybe has a general understanding, that will maybe even give you some suggestions. That's a traditional golf caddy.
Yeah,
I think that's where we're going. Do you think that there is maybe that there could potentially be an issue with someone, and again, I'm just going to use, we'll use Macy
and
Jamie as an example. Like, do you think Jamie can give her his true and full
unfiltered, unadulterated,
unadulterated opinion, knowing that they have to spend every moment together in a van or in a car. Mm-hmm. Like it's one thing if you can get upset at your caddy, or the caddy can get upset with the player. Like, no, I think you should throw this. I think you should probably lay up here. Don't go for the green. Player says, no, I think I want to go for the green. Caddy's like, all right, whatever. Like, do you think that there's a disadvantage at some point to being so close and having to spend all this time with this person that they can't necessarily be completely and 100%, I don't say
frank.
Honest, but frank is a better word. No, I agree. There are advantages to having someone that you're comfortable with. Like a Jamie, like a Tom, that you can just flat out say, like, oh, I'm very comfortable. They know my discs. They've watched me play all the time. We spend a lot of time together. I'm just wondering if maybe we're not. Is it a better idea? I think it's better than just a random caddy that's just there to carry your discs.
Well, and that's
and maybe we're not at the point, obviously, of having a dedicated caddy that knows your game as well, that can be frank with you. I feel like it could make for some awkwardness at points.
Potentially. And then I'll go to what I deem is almost an extreme when you hear some players, and I think, I might be wrong on this, but I think like Holly Finley comes to mind. Obviously her significant other, Noah Five-Ash, is occasionally on the bag. I don't know what their conversations are like, but I will say if Holly is having a caddy that was, well, just for lack of a better term, Joe Schmo, picked out of the off the sideline, and for that particular weekend he's caddying or she's caddying. She, I think, has said in the past, which other players have said, I want you to literally hold my bag and shut the F up.
Hold the bag, hold an umbrella.
You're a mule. You are a mule,
yep.
And I don't want to hear from you. And I think that's obviously perfectly acceptable.
I
Every
agree.
caddy. I've even thought myself, I was just literally thinking the other day, with some uncertainty about my USDGC involvement and that I'm not currently contracted to be part on DGN, if I were to caddy for someone, and again, the range is so wide, if somebody were to want me to caddy for them or be open to the idea, I would certainly lead with, if I were to ask any player that I don't think has a caddy already, I would lead with, I can, believe it or not, I can absolutely be there for 4 hours and not say a word if that's what you want. Because clearly I'm not, I'll just use Kelvin Heimberg as an example. I'm not telling Kelvin, hey, throw this eagle versus that eagle. I would never tell him that, probably no matter what. However,
but
he may or may not be open to various conversation that he does or doesn't want to have, or various interactions.
Conversation. I think you could have a different strategic perspective, as would maybe any relatively experienced watcher of disc golf or player of disc golf, anyone that has played, a decent amount at a certain level. I think you could probably have a conversation on strategy. You nor I, or probably almost anyone, are going to probably even know the difference, unless you're with them a ton, to know the difference between the three different Eagles Calvin carries. Are you going to throw the Pro or the DX or the whole Champion?
Get that 150 beat up 150 DX.
That's right. I think that's great into this headline.
I just bring that along in my back. It's tucked away in the back and said, I've been carrying this just in case you think you need it.
You've
never seen it, but no, I completely understand what you're saying. And again, I was thinking of how with any given player, it would be a different conversation with every one of them that I could potentially caddy for, because I'm sure some of them, understandably, probably think I would have this need to be incredibly social, and I don't. I could absolutely be quiet and watch golf for 4 straight hours. I just think it comes down to a matter of, do you want a mule? Some of our players just want an empty sounding board.
Of course.
They just want to talk it out, even if they know what they're going to do, and largely ignore what a caddy says or thinks. They're just looking to utter words into space and have somebody absorb them. And to them, that's a great caddy. And I think that's fine too.
Is there maybe, again, you could look at it either way, advantage, disadvantage. I think of someone like, or what we just saw with Holland at Worlds, where Holland was having a bad final round. You could look at someone, your significant other is there that can comfort you, that can maybe help get over whatever issue you have. But maybe that's a disadvantage as well. Maybe you don't want someone there that's going to be like, oh, don't worry,
you got this,
you got this.
Oh yeah,
maybe you want someone there that's gonna be like, hey, pull your head out of your ass.
Totally agree, and I think that's what's so difficult if you don't know them and have that relationship. What Zach Melton can say to Kelvin is very different than what myself or many others could say to Kelvin because of their friendship and knowing what is the right thing to say or what isn't. And I would definitely always err on the side of, if we got to that point, I'd err on the side of I'm just going to shut up and not say a word because I don't want to have anything misconstrued as being the wrong thing said.
Yeah.
Whether it was truly funny or not, or they really do want to hear it or not. That would be my starting block personally. It's tough. It's tough because, like you said, every
player wants a different thing from their caddy. And again, I'm talking more about caddies that you know, because I think, like you said, if you pull somebody out of the crowd or someone reaches out to you online like, hey, would you mind if I caddied for you? You're coming to Idlewild. And you're like, oh, that's great. You know the Idlewild course. Sure, come on out and caddy for me. That's great. 99% of the time, you don't want their input on your shots.
Correct.
You just want to chat with somebody like, hey, what's a great local place to eat here? You know, oh, that's cool. But they also don't want to hear how you one time birdied this hole because you threw in a 212-foot shot from the fairway. You're like, the player doesn't want to hear any of that probably
not. And I think that happens more than it should as well. And that's why I would be so cautious of ever doing that.
I totally agree. That's why I think leaving those type of situations out of this conversation. I'm talking about more so your regular caddies. It's difficult because I think maybe our players are not getting are not necessarily getting everything they need out of a caddy that they could be. But I also don't know that we're in a position that you can have a caddy like that. Because,
all right.
Just because you can't. Sure, you can't employ a person to come with you every event and know your bag like your significant. I mean, so much happens because the significant other is going to be there with you anyway. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, and just think. Let's jump ahead. Hey, wife or significant other or husband, you're fired, and every week I'm going to have someone else here. Just think, like, are they relieved? Are they like, oh, good, or F you? But then Sunday night you're getting in the car together and going to the next stop. Oh, how'd your caddy do? Yeah, what did you go ask your caddy to do that for you? Oh, you want me to make you a sandwich? No, your caddy can do that. There's who knows? You're right. I think of probably. And it'd be funny to have them both on right now. You look at the relationship that Fern and Ricky have, and Fern knows Ricky's game inside and out, what he's capable of or not. And I think they have a pretty frank and open conversation about any given throw. And it's been documented where Fern has said, hey, I think you should go with blank. And Rick tries it and it pans out. I mean, of course, it's beautiful.
How many strikes do you get?
Yeah, that too.
Like, okay, Fern, you're 0 for 2 here.
Am I thinking, is it Tin Cup or it's Happy Gilmore where he hits the wrong club or he hits it and he goes, oh.
Where were we on this one? And then they show later he's like sitting on his caddy.
Oh, 7. What does he say? Like 5 iron, huh? Whatever the quote is when he's ripping on his caddy. It's an interesting conversation because, like you said, we have so many of these, the caddies currently that are kind of de facto caddies.
Correct.
And right now, I mean, again, if we're calling out specifics, Brittany and Chris don't have that awkwardness. She's specifically probably not talking disc selection.
Not at all, probably. Or very little if she is. But
one could say, well, maybe Chris is missing out on not having a more specific sounding board. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Terry, why does it have to be so complicated?
Oh, my gosh. Well, when you're 39 and about to be 40 and you were on the top of the world like 2002 or 3-ish,
Yeah, right around there.
somewhere around there, you eventually get me to show up to your concert.
Are you a skater boy now?
I said, see you later, boy.
Did you have a happy ending?
I went to Avril Lavigne last night, and that would be
That's not weird and awkward at all.
Well, it would be.
Actually, it's not because of your age at all. But.
I was still on the older side, which is maybe surprising
A little bit, because she's
she's
popular.
7 years younger than us.
Yeah.
She's 39. She's going to be 40, I think, in a couple of weeks. So she's 7 years younger than we are.
That is still a little bit. Yeah, you would still be a little bit old, I suppose, because
But in 2002, we were 20 whatever, and she was 22, and we were 27.
I suppose
that's not that crazy.
No, I mean, and it's right up the alley. I listen to, she was kind of in that punk, kind of more pop of anything type music. It was nothing I listened to. I was much more of a different style of punk rock music.
More Simple Plan, who opened for them, and Girlfriends you wouldn't know, but Simple Plan, were you ever?
I was not a fan of them particularly, but that would be more so closer to the alley I would have listened to. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so last night, Avril Lavigne was in Milwaukee, and my 13-year-old daughter and her friend were dying to go. There was a lot of conversation. It was a school night, so there was a lot of conversation, not just about that, but just in general of weaning interest that went back and forth about who may or may not be interested in going and either with them or not. I'm very much more a night owl that doesn't mind a little traffic. And so of all the possible parents and combinations of people out there, friends and parents and everything else, it worked out that I was able to take my daughter to Avril Lavigne last night and her good friend Sadie. And it was awkward only because, I as much as I think I kept a running tally.
We had a discussion beforehand of how many of the songs you would know.
Yeah. You thought only 2 or 3.
I said at most 3, and because I could think of only 2 that I knew, and I was like, I've got to be missing 1.
Yeah, you'd be surprised that even I'm guessing the other 3 or 4 that I also recognized, you would recognize at least just from the radio sake. So, but I'm not singing along. I don't know all the words, even if I knew 7 out of the 12 songs or so that she played. It was pretty cool. Do you know how many the Marcus Amphitheater Summerfest grounds, or how many the amphitheater seats? Do you want to take a guess? Because I had no idea, so I Googled it.
Is it 22,000?
23,000.
Oh, so close.
And I don't know how many officially can go in like the grass seats. That was like sparsely.
It's a hell of a guess, by the way, that I just pulled out.
That was, well, you've been there. How many more?
I've probably been there 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, and you're a very seasoned concert goer of many different sizes and venues.
Still within 1,000.
Yes, it was very good though.
I'm gonna
so I
pat myself on the back.
By the time that she came on, I feel like 80 to 90% of the seats were filled. Like, and I didn't know what to expect, maybe because it was so sparse during the 2 opening bands. But by the time she came on, which was 9 o'clock, show started at 7. She came on right at 9, almost on the dot, and it was pretty much full there. Does that surprise you? You knowing what you know about concerts?
No, because
and celebrities and scenes. Does that surprise you to say? I'm going to guess there were 20,000 out of the 23,000 possible there.
I don't think it surprises me. Yeah, no, she had such a big following for a while.
Yeah.
So it honestly kind of surprises me that like your daughters at their age are interested in going. I could see this as like a bunch of 28 to 35-year-old women. Like that would be the range that I would think that would be really interested in this, because they were younger when she was popular, and they maybe kind of followed her through her career. She hasn't had a huge hit in a while, I don't believe.
She's got a new album out now, though.
I'm sure she does, but
literally the name of the tour was Greatest Hits Tour.
Yeah,
is what she's doing right now. Yeah, it was. I don't go to a ton of concerts of any kind. Clearly, this wouldn't have been.
I mean, if you were a single dad, let me tell you, Tare, that's the place you should have been.
No, and as I posted on Instagram last night, I definitely did not get the memo. I was all about wearing one of my pink flamingo shirts just so I'd be a little bit easier to spot. I didn't know I'd be the easiest guy in the whole damn place to spot. I did not realize, because I wasn't that into her, that it was all but a requirement
to wear black.
To wear black and or flannel.
Yeah, her whole look was like black with a flannel tied around her waist.
Exactly. You know, very.
Like, even I knew that.
I did not, and nor did I think it would really matter that much. But I absolutely stuck out like a fat sore thumb with my pink shirt, because there was almost zero pink anywhere else.
Which is surprising, because I would have thought like that there would be girls wearing pink.
No,
with their black, like black and pink kind of thing.
Like three. Like 3 out of 23,000 or 20,000 had some kind of pink on. The rest was pretty much all black.
Okay.
Obviously, lots of girls wearing, a tank top and then a tie. That was, I know, as part of her signature, look and whatever as well. But I was definitely, I felt out of place attire-wise.
Here's what I've noticed, because I would say Avril Lavigne, like I said, is adjacent to kind of the music I enjoyed when I was younger. I was much more of a punk rock fan, and again, she kind of delved into the small,
but was a little more mainstream and poppy than what
she was. Much more mainstream poppy than what stuff I listened to. But in general, it feels like going to a concert. Almost everyone wears black anyway. I don't know why. Like concerts that I go to and still go to. I was actually one of the concerts I went to last year or was it earlier this year in Chicago? It was one of the after things. So the concert didn't start until like 11 p.m. I was there to see the opening band, thankfully. But I walked up to the concert gear, and they're more of an indie rock band. They're not a punk band. Like all their merch is black, the shirts, I'm just like, I asked the guy, I'm like, any other color? Like just anything. And I ended up. In fact, am I wearing one of the
Uh-oh.
This is
You're missing out if you're audio only right now.
This is not
Johnny's
from the
unbuttoning
band,
his
but
shirt.
this is not from the same band, but this is Into It Over It, which is another black t-shirt. I look for, when I go to a concert, I like to buy a t-shirt if I don't already have one. And I like to try to find ones that aren't black. My very most favorite band t-shirt I ever had was a bright orange Dismemberment Plan shirt with a piece of cake on it. Because it stuck out so much. There is so much black concert paraphernalia.
You're spilling beer and
maybe
food and
you're sweating probably at the concert, but maybe. And clearly, I think it's different if you're probably going to maybe do a Dave Matthews Band concert, or if you're going to a Jimmy Buffett concert.
Sure.
Like there are. Well, sorry, R.I.P. Jimmy Buffett. But I think there's a few key ones where there's probably more colorful gear. But man,
well, you'll be happy
general.
to know that my daughter and her good friend bought an Avril Lavigne t-shirt, concert t-shirt. You want to guess the price? For a women's medium or small, or a kid's medium or small concert t-shirt?
I'm going to say 35.
Oh gosh, I wish. No.
Oh,
40.
40.
Which shows you how old I'm getting. I almost cried. And she bought it. I didn't pay for it. But she showed up and she's like, here's our shirt.
The shirt I bought at the concert I went to earlier in the year, $25. $25 for a t-shirt, a band t-shirt, which I think is they probably got for $8.
Not even.
Not whatever. And
yep.
Yeah, and so I pay, I'm okay with that. But again, the bands I see, not as big as Avril Lavigne, not 20,000. The band I went to go see was like 3,000 people there, maybe 2. I don't know. It filled the Metro. How much ever the Metro had, it fills.
I know I'm an old cheap fuddy-duddy, so I'm balking at a $40 t-shirt, but it hurt my heart a little knowing that my daughter, who works for her own money, spent $40 on this t-shirt. But it is black.
The Metro in Chicago's capacity is 1,100 people. That's the concert. And the band I went to, they packed that, but yeah.
Yeah, so they got t-shirts. It hurt my heart a little to have them come back. They were black, as you were just saying. And here's the kicker. We'll wrap up the whole attire conversation with, I don't own a black shirt even if I did know that was the appropriate or expected protocol. It's
You don't
funny
own a black T-shirt?
I don't. Not one that I wear regularly at all. No.
And you're not much of a T-shirt guy in general.
Never.
Usually,
but I don't own any. I don't own black polos. I don't own black button-ups, really. And if I did, they would be dressier, probably. So it's kind of funny that I couldn't fit in that teenage angst.
It didn't hit with you.
There's a metaphor out there somewhere, but I wouldn't have fit in no matter what. So we had a good time. Of course, I parked us in a damn good spot, so we had
And you stayed to the very end, right?
We stayed to the very end.
Good.
There was a brief encore of 2 songs, which was obviously completely scripted because she actually changed, and then I think played one of her old hits, but then also one of her new songs that no one knew.
There's no such thing as an unscripted encore these days. Like,
so,
we're gonna come on. What are we gonna play? No,
so
it just doesn't happen.
But 2 songs, everything was good. It was fun. Thank you. Some of the posts that I made last night got a lot more reactions than a lot of other stuff that I post. So I appreciate you guys supporting and coming along with that silly little
Taylor
journey.
Swift has non-black apparel.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, in general,
she probably has a billion options.
A billion options, as opposed to like the 3 T-shirts you go to. You're like, oh, which one of these 3 am I going to buy?
Yeah.
The one that has the list of all the
cities,
places she went, or so the talk about her new album, or the one with her classic,
They definitely did play into I'll say both Avril and Simple Plan played into their longevity of being around now for 20 some years. And again, I wasn't ever a Simple Plan fan, so to speak. I wouldn't go out of my way. There was, again, a handful of songs I recognized, most of which I didn't. That's probably all not that surprising. So good times. It was for my daughter, and so mission accomplished in that sense.
Well done, Dad.
This weekend, I also had the pleasure of going with a family friend who's she's like a grandmother to my 2 girls. Her and then my 2 girls and I all went to, we went and got a hibachi, but then we went to Milwaukee Zone Comedy Sports and had a good time at that. So if you're not familiar with Comedy Sports, it's improv with a overall sports theme. But I don't want to say theme. Like the setting, it gives you a sports vibe and theme in that it's competitive improv.
South of
downtown. It doesn't have to at all be sports related, if that makes sense. Yeah, downtown on First Street.
And First Street,
which is the official Comedy Sports headquarters of the world.
Oh, I didn't realize.
I'm pretty sure. Okay. Yeah, that's not just one of the locations. I think it's the official mothership.
I know a good friend of mine is in an. He is in a
improv
troupe that they do some stuff there, and I think maybe he's even done some comedy sports there. But
yeah, so that was a good time as well. And then first weekend of volleyball for my youngest.
Same here. My kid got
long days.
My kid got their butt kicked at their first game.
Where did they play?
They played at the
Sting Center. Oh,
what?
Where did they? Where?
Last week they were at Whitefish Bay High School.
Okay, so
this week they're at home. So tomorrow I'll be going to another volleyball game.
All right, that's how it all goes down. Dadding it up, and things are going on as we're closing out our season. I'm trying to think of other things that were tangent news to disc golf this last week. I already mentioned Simon's anniversary. I feel like there was something else that I can't remember what it was, but. I don't know if you got any questions off the board. Yanni earlier said I was mixing up 2 movies with regarding to Tin Cup when he fired Cheech for telling him he couldn't hit the 7. And then, probably. I think when Shooter threw down the club and said 7 iron, huh? Or something or whatever it was, and said, ripped on him for calling out the wrong club. That's the... specific reference I was thinking of, but you're right. I'm probably somehow mixing these 2 together. I don't think it's no secret. I'm working the host position for the next 3 events. Not next 3, sorry, 3 out of the last 4, all but USDGC. So I'll be out in Bend for that, working on a possible flex start. As well as I've done the last couple of years. So that's also in the works, which would be 2 weeks from tomorrow out in Bend at Pine Nursery. So for those of you that are in that neighborhood, maybe we can get Bevel to give away a few free beers for something special. Ed asks, did anyone go see Beetlejuice?
Not yet. I've heard good things. Like, not great, but they said it's a worthwhile sequel, is what I've heard. I want to go see. My wife even said the other day, she's like, that's a movie I could go see in the theater. And I agree. I think it would be fun. So I think maybe in the next week or so, maybe this weekend, I'll try to talk my wife into going to see Beetlejuice.
1988.
That was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just placing a year on it.
And you've seen Beetlejuice, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I also saw it in the play version.
Really?
Yeah, with Lauren Boebert. Never mind. When she got friendly.
I know what you're talking. I know what of you're speaking. I didn't know if you had really seen a play version of it, but you were Lauren Boebert's date, huh? You're getting a little friendly.
That's what I'm trying to say. Not so much. Anyway, no, I'd be interested in actually seeing the new one as well. Was that so? That play in Colorado, but is that making its way around the country?
I think it is. I think it's a touring. Yeah.
I do think that would be also fun to watch. I think right now there's some version of Back to the Future. I think I last saw is in Chicago right now, and some kind of off-Broadway capacity. That sounds kind of cool.
Could be.
Anyway, all right. Like I said, a couple of more discs had gone out. There's very few that still are playing catch up, but for the most part, we're doing pretty good on the discs going out. So thank you guys for that. I think with that, we can get ready to pull for tonight's drawing.
Patreon.com/SmashboxTV for as little as $1 a month. You can be eligible for our giveaways. We have 124 people eligible for our giveaways this week. Terry, as always, I'm going to ask you, what number should we generate?
It's a random poll. I know. Oh, it is Simon Lazat's and Natalia's 2-year anniversary. So,
all right.
And they've got 2 kids. So let's go with the 4th number.
All right, 4th number it is.
We always go to 2. That's
you multiplied it 2 times 2.
They multiplied.
Yeah, they did multiply. But Simon took 6 this weekend, so I'm just saying. All right,
I don't do long division. I don't know.
The first number is 118. The second number is 29. The third number is 20. My favorite number. It's sorted by email address. The 4th number is 3. 3 is the 4th number.
An Aaron? Is there an Aaron? That's number 3. That's just going to be a guess.
It is Adam Schleiss.
Nice.
Adam Schleiss. Congratulations.
Adam, semi-local to us. Yes.
Oh, yeah, he's in Milwaukee there.
Yes,
I
yes.
didn't even see it. Congratulations,
I don't think
Adam.
he's ever won.
I'm
not saying he's a loser in life, and I don't want him to sue me because I know he's a lawyer of sorts. But, yeah.
Well, congratulations, Adam. I very much appreciate it. Thank you. We'll get that out. I'll get Terry your email address, and we have your home address. So Terry will creep in maybe tonight. Don't.
I'll swing by.
If he knocks on a window, just know he's handing you your Patreon disc.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. I don't recall Adam ever winning.
I don't recall. Cool. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it, Adam. That actually sounds like a good excuse for him and I get together. I think we haven't done so in more than a year. When we broke bread, had some lunch, Brookfield Square Mall.
Okay.
We went to the Pita Pit together. No, we didn't actually. We went to some other restaurants. The Pita Pit. That's a funny one. But anyway, it'd be good. I'll reach out to him. So that's pretty awesome. Wow, I don't think I have a lot more.
No, nor do I, Terry. I'm looking forward to when we end this podcast and I can go online and see all the wonderful things people said about the debate.
Sure the debate.
I'm sure it was
riveting.
It was riveting, probably heavily intellectual. They probably they each probably talked nothing but policy. I'm sure there were no personal insults thrown out in any sort of way.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And I remember, again, I know I'm getting old, when I almost care about the debate and what was or wasn't said and how it went down. Because you and I, like every other kid across the planet, 40 years ago when those came up, you're like, oh God, what is on my TV?
Why is it on every station?
And why is it on every station as you're flipping?
Three stations. It's on all of them.
And now it's and why we care, I don't know, but or what it matters. But
or the worst is when, for whatever reason, the president was speaking that night, and maybe it wasn't State of the Union, but he had an announcement for the country, and you're like, well, I just want to watch Roseanne.
Yeah.
Why is this on?
Exactly. Gosh, man, if we could only go back to the good old days, that completely sane Roseanne and that roofie dropping Cosby show and oh God, what were we watching and what were they doing?
I did see something about their it was Cliff and Claire Huxtable.
Okay.
Why is it called the Cosby Show? Just because it's Bill Cosby?
Yeah. No.
Who's Cosby?
Yeah. No, that's.
It's not often you see something like that where it's it's
if the Jeffersons, their last name was really the Millers or something.
Exactly. Yeah. I just thought it was funny. And I never put that together in my head. I was like, yeah, it's just it's the Cosby Show, but it's not. It was they were the Huxtables. Why? Damn you, Theo.
Man, then it became, so it was a different world.
Different world. Dwayne Wayne and the flipped up glasses.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we could live in decade all night, but
we will after we turn off the podcast.
Exactly. All right. With that, thank you guys for joining us. We very much appreciate you guys coming along for the silly ride, especially when we know so many of you download and somehow listen on your long journeys or drives or whatever it might be. We appreciate it. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. That's podcast 523's after show. Thank you to all of our smashies. Thank you to our guest, Zach. And next week, things will get silly. We'll find somebody else new and fun and interesting to talk to. We see you then. You step inside the Smash Box.